Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Showboys podcast. I'm your host, Pixel Nick, and joining me tonight is our lovely friend, Casey. Casey, how are you
Hi,
doing?
I'm great, Nick. Thanks for having me, man. Super stoked to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I was
Me
happy you
too.
were going to be here the whole time, and now I'm even more happy because none of the other boys showed up. But you'll have that. So I'm glad you're here with me.
Absolutely. No
Fantastic
reason to go
topic for
solo. You're not a solo boy. You can still keep the S at the end.
I always it's weird. Like the only person I feel comfortable like talking about Star Wars with by myself is myself, like just thinking about it. Otherwise, like it would just I think be weird. But these conversations are always best in twos or more.
As a rule.
Yeah, as a rule, just for the internet's sake. No one needs one person telling them about Star Wars. It's better as a conversation. That's Star Wars to
Absolutely.
me. It's always a
That's
conversation to be had.
that's how I've made a lot of friends is through Star Wars conversations. And one thing that I learned in my generation was that, you know, everybody was open to Star Wars. Everyone loved Star Wars. Everyone was willing to talk about Star Wars, and even if you didn't like it, you still knew about it. So, it was always a good conversation piece.
Knew about it, had things to say about it. There was something you liked about it, but there's probably a lot
Mhm.
of stuff you didn't like about it. So at least if we can dial in on the things you did like, there's a conversation to be had there.
Exactly. Because who doesn't love space wizards with laser swords?
Yeah, and if that's not exciting enough, you there's politics.
Yay!
Yay! So you decide which side of the fence you're on. You like politics or you like wizards with laser swords.
And if you don't, there's still space battles with awesome ships. So,
That was my next point. I was like, or I can rewatch a good portion of my childhood was really just rewatching the movies to see the battles.
hmm, yep,
Everything else kind of glazed over my head because the original three were already well out before I was even born, and then I
same.
was like 9, 10 when episode one came out. So it was a very coherent experience as like I moved into my teens and like 20s, and I would obviously still rewatch these and be like, oh, I get that now.
Right? You can
It's more
grow
than
with
just
them.
like walkers and starships. So
I mean, when you go back and watch episode 3 or episode 6 rather, Return of the Jedi, and it's like, boo, I'm annoyed by the Ewoks, and yet you miss out on this awesome epic space battle that's happening, that has Lando Calrissian snaking all the way through using the
so
Millennium
good.
Falcon going through the, new Death Star. It was phenomenal.
And just to say, they always hallmark back to that particular scene. I think with the Millennium Falcon,
Hmm.
and no one's been able to like recapture that. Like Solo obviously gets very close because
Yeah.
it's all about that ship, basically. Um, but yeah, episode six, like when Lando's driving that thing is smoking. Like that's
Hmm.
that's the that's the roller coaster everyone wants to ride in that ship.
Exactly. We all give Han Solo the credit and we remember him that, sure, he may have been pretty cool and he may have been pretty impressive, but nobody's Lando in that girl. Like, that was his baby. And you
Hmm.
see that, and it's really rad.
Yeah, and I really like Solo too. Like that movie, I love that movie.
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I think it was
Yeah,
a really good spiritual successor to the story of Han Solo. I love Donald Glover. He's
yeah,
phenomenal. I mean, he's wonderful. Lando. Look, Billy
crushed
D.
it.
Williams is Lando, but Donald Glover gave us the best young Billy D. Williams we could have gotten.
Hmm. Yeah, hands down, easily. But like, just fun things like that make then when you go back and watch episode six, and you're like, oh look, here's this moment where he's handing the keys back over to the Falcon. Like it was already you knew it was important because of just the dialogue they've built
Hmm.
up between them and the Falcon. But then you watch that movie and you're like, there it is. Like so much more now behind that.
Yep.
Just a little scene, that little scene.
Yep. And then which kind of, kind of poo pooed on the Kessel Run part, which made the Kessel. That was the only thing. My issue with Solo was it didn't do great for the Kessel Run experience. We didn't need to actually see that.
Right.
That was my only knock
Like
on it.
literally see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
didn't I didn't want to see it. It's more
yeah.
fun the story I've built up for 30
Yeah.
plus years in my mind. I don't want to know this
That
now.
is the
So
Kessel Run. Um, Well, that's my favorite. Like same idea, but probably different though. Different opinion on it is like the Clone Wars. My favorite meme is there's variations of it, but it's like when Obi-Wan mentions the Clone Wars in Episode 4, and it's like the what, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, don't worry about that. Your kids are gonna love it.
It's 100%. It's a full-on Michael J. Fox moment.
You're just like, you guys can't handle this right now, not at all. You're not ready for it. It's the '80s. Can't do it yet.
Yeah, can't put all that on screen yet.
I know, but like even and that's I mean, he got a lot of crap for years about like his dialogue and his style and all that, but obviously I think it's aged like fine wine. Like it just simply
Hmm.
gets better because he leaves it so open ended. It's so loose on purpose because like
Yep.
he's he only says exactly what's needed to be said. Like if there's no reason to have a massive amount of exposition in a scene, he's like, yeah, let's not do it then.
I mean, no need. And especially you're looking at, I think it works better for Obi-Wan's character specifically because he doesn't need to say more. He's been living in a desert as a hermit for all these years. So he
Yeah.
says he's very terse now in his age. So, and
Mm-hmm.
plus he's seen a lot, and it's tough. You don't want to say too much around Luke because you don't want to give away the ghost. So,
Yeah. It's like, can I say that? Can I not say that?
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, he said the Clone Wars, and even like as a child, like he said that, I'm like, that sounds really cool, whatever that is. And I think I've reflected on that a little bit, and it's because you're in this universe at that time that is very void of anything like a clone or
Mhm.
that sort of technology or idea. So to say that
Mhm.
there was an entire set of wars or a war of clones, just like that sounds really interesting. There's more
Right?
to this. I need to know. I must know.
I mean, even the technology on Tatooine kind of drives you to want to know more right out the gate because they're using this incredibly advanced technology for very primitive things.
Yeah.
So it's right from the get. I mean, one of the things that drew me into, I think Star Wars has been always been fantastic with is the idea that the further you get away from the core planets, that technology really is just about survival. It's
Yeah.
not about all the extra frills and all these things that we might think of like, oh, why don't you do this with it? But in those eras, it's like, well, they're doing it to live. So they're actually like conquering a planet. It's very much of what the home settlers would do,
Hmm.
going out and having to use whatever was around. So it's pretty awesome. And I love the way they do that. So it draws you in, just begging the question of what was that technology for once, though?
Yeah. Yeah. And in Mike's early days, even like pre like Star Wars fandom, because he's still freshy to the scene in the past 5 years, maybe less actually. But he was like, they can fly in spaceships, but they live in mud huts. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, it's just practical. I mean, we have very sophisticated things here on Earth, let alone, and there are places in Earth where yes, people still live in mud huts. They have access to technology. Does that mean they use it for the same things that the core worlds would? No, not at all.
Right,
They got
exactly.
a
And you get to
mud
kind
hut
of
with a electronic panel in it. I want to see the wiring in a mud hut. Like they're running wires through the mud walls.
just one big conduit back there.
Yeah, yeah, um,
Seeing
yeah.
all
Anyway,
these wonderful things that it opens up because it could be anything. What could be
yeah,
back there? Is it actually in like when they're building the mud hut? Do they just stick it in there and then like schmackle it over it?
yeah. Schmackle. Yeah, it's just a lot of drywall, mud
Just
wall.
mudding everywhere.
Yeah, just get it right. You have to chip it out.
You chip it
Um,
out and mud it again.
then there's C-3PO, right? Like Anakin somehow crazily was able to build that as a chit. Obviously, he's chosen one boy genius, yada yada. But
Mhm.
still, a lot of wires going on there in that
A
droid.
lot of wires, man. A lot of wires. A lot of weird harnesses you have to connect up to. Some strange bus pathing. You
Yeah,
can mess anything up at any moment. And imagine the processors. Like what are you putting in there? Like how do power cells go in? It's too much.
yeah, and I kind of had a revelation about that twofold. One, I was watching an episode of The Mandalorian, and I think it was the last season where kind of the quest was you need to go get that part to get the IG unit back
Hmm.
up and running. That was like
Yeah.
very beginning of season 3.
Hmm.
that didn't really go too far. That wasn't really a big plot line.
No,
Just
no,
a side
the
quest.
yeah, just a side quest. They just made an episode of it. Well, season 3 was a lot of side quests.
Yeah, they all are. But between that and then I have like the robot vacuums, right? And one of its basically called a bad motivator
Hmm.
went bad in it, and to fix it, I could fix it myself. They said to send me the part, and it's just like the unit that I just had to replace in it, and I was like, oh, okay. So Star Wars is really just a galaxy of an otherwise fairly universal modular system of
Hmm.
parts that just people need to do things. So like there are things called motivators that are universally used in whatever you might be motivating.
Hmm.
And it kind of clicked in my brain. I'm like, oh, that's why anyone can seemingly have this like really cool droid because we have these standardized parts.
Hmm.
So we Star Wars can thank Henry Ford for that, I suppose, in the assembly line. But
That's exactly who we got it from. 100%. All the scenes on Geonosis are thank you to the Ford Motor Company.
yes, they got money from that movie. They still do. Every time someone watches Clone Wars or Attack of the
Whenever they
Clones,
show a conveyor belt, any conveyor belt in history, they just give money to them.
patented, patent the image of it, the likeness of the conveyor belt is a credit to Sir Henry. Um, but anyway, I digress. We digress. We were here to talk about Ahsoka.
Hmm.
Not just the finale, the series as a whole. Um, I really just called this episode tonight as like a series reaction or yeah, series finale reaction because is there a season 2? I don't know. No one really needs to know. I see those articles out there. It's like everything we know about season 2. What does it say in the article? We don't know if there's a season 2. Very insightful. Thank you.
I love those. They are fantastic. And it's such clickbait because all of us click on it like, well, maybe they know something. They don't. They never know anything more than we do. It's very seldom. Like,
They
and this
recap
one,
the series for like 10 paragraphs.
yeah. And then they're like, all right, will there be more? We don't know. Thanks for checking in. It's
We
awesome.
know as much as you do.
Yep. I want to get paid for that. It sounds like a great
Well,
gig.
just telling everybody they know as much as everyone else does. It's very
Yep.
reassuring job.
It, yeah, that sounds like, nice, but give them a pat on the head while you do it. Like, look,
Yeah,
it's probably not going to happen, but it's okay.
we got paid for all the ads on this page, so you're welcome.
Thanks for popping
glad
through.
you're glad you stopped in. Yes. But yeah, Ahsoka. Really, Dave's launch pad. That's what I'm kind
Hmm.
of thinking of Ahsoka as a whole as is Dave's launch pad because you know obviously you could call Clone Wars that and many other things he's worked on that, but not really. Like it's all prelude. It's all him just testing, playing,
Hmm.
learning, trying new things. And then we have Ahsoka, which I really feel like is the pilot for what is to come.
Hmm. He's kind of backdoored his way into taking ownership of the future of where Star Wars is going to go in these next couple movies and their general direction. And it's necessary because we did have Force Awakens, which I love. I absolutely love the entirety of the trilogy. Not so great. It was discombobulated and a little clunky. But I do love the characters. I love what they did. One of the biggest issues, though, is they tried to create a Star Wars story in Star Wars, as opposed to what Dave Filoni has done, which is actually focus on creating some really good stories inside of the Star Wars universe. So he's created those two fantastic stories in Clone Wars. Excuse me. We're essentially following Anakin, but also Ahsoka, and all of the main characters we know through the eyes of Ahsoka, a character we don't know. And then we get some cool characters along the side. Rebels does this as well, basically proving to us that rebels are rising up in small factions before they become united, and then showing us the growth of that side, which Rogue One does exceptionally well as well. So there's a couple of these moments and these shows that Filoni created that he was finally able to tie in, and I couldn't agree more that this is his pilot. This is him saying, all right, everything I created that fans of Star Wars will love, or even just fans of these TV shows will love, here they are live for you. And also, here's an awesome story to follow. I mean, we have such an incredible bad guy in Thrawn, who Lars
Oh yeah.
Mikkelsen just demolishes that role, man. He just did so well. And him standing side by side with who I think is one of the greatest new Star Wars characters yet to date, which is Balin Skull. Those two were just mountains that rose out of the clouds with their
Hmm.
incredible, impeccable work. And Rosario Dawson embodied this character. She became Ahsoka. So, working with Dave Filoni, we get some fantastic actors who are very well seasoned and get to bring these characters to life in a perfect way.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible on all fronts, even whether they're new characters or obviously existing characters, how well um, the actors themselves are even to bring those characters obviously to life. But they have very good source material to study. Like, go watch Clone Wars and Rebels, and you'll have a really good idea on how these characters should be played. But
Yep.
the actors, like, phenomenal. Like, not just like aesthetic wise, like leave that to the crew. Actor wise, like they did such a good job um, with each one of those. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, they really did a fantastic job. You're right. I mean, crew wise, they made them the costume and design department did perfect. I mean, nailed it. This is absolutely what you want to see. Makeup did great, hair did great, but what they brought to life, what Rosario Dawson brought out of Ahsoka, this almost, and everyone was, well, not everyone. I read a lot of complaints early on about her acting being wooden, and it's like, well, she's trying to be a Jedi, and in her mind, this is what being a Jedi is, and she's still damaged. So she's covering that part of her that was once fun loving and happy because she's trying to be more of the straight and narrow version of the Jedi she had known previous. Versus when she breaks that, she gets to come through that part of herself and, kind of make peace with it really and become balanced again, which was a fantastic bit they did with her being in the world between worlds was
Hmm.
so great. So I love seeing that in her, seeing her become the Ahsoka from Clone Wars and be funny and a little more aggressive and a little just giving into her emotions a little more and willing to. So that was great.
Yeah, I mean, tons of people, plenty of people, just had a lot of issue with the portrayal there, just tone wise, right?
Hmm.
Just rigid, very dry, bland. But there that existed at least in Clone Wars for sure,
Oh
and
yeah.
season 7, like she became much more stoic, much more jaded. Like
Hmm.
season 7, when she meets up with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and um and Bo Katan was there,
Hmm.
right? Like she was very cold toward Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like she has a lot of baggage there and is
Hmm.
jaded. So that she really was that side of her character. So it's not unprecedented for her character to be arms folded, very just straight with everyone. Like that's
Hmm.
Ahsoka's older self. She's not. Yeah. She's of course is not season 1, 2, 3 of Clone Wars. Like did everyone finish Clone Wars? I don't know. Sometimes.
Exactly.
Um,
Well, then, and when you get her in Rebels, the same way, she's very much so. She's an agent working on the outskirts for the rebellion. So she's not. She's that sort of cold, distant person.
yeah, and they there's dialogue too in like episode 1 or 2. She explains to Sabine, and Sabine's like, "You still live here? Like in the ship?" She's like, "It works for me."
Hmm.
Like she's a wanderer. She just wanders the or wanders the galaxy. She goes where she's needed, and she says
Hmm.
that. So like, she is not homely or like warm and cozy. Like she just travels around the galaxy, kind of hunting artifacts and trying to prevent bad things from happening. So
Which part of the great part in here in this wonderful series, she fails,
yes,
and it's wonderful. It's a delight.
wonderful fail. Yeah, and yeah,
Mhm.
it kind of well, I mean, outside of the whole end of Rebels, I mean, the success there wasn't much anyone's, right? Other than Ezra, Space Whales, all that jazz.
Yeah, I mean, Ezra was really the only big winner.
Yeah.
I mean, well, unless you consider, hold on, because I want to state that if I could had the chance to become a spirit wolf, I would totally go spirit wolf as well. So Kanan kind of won too.
Yeah,
Like,
Kanan. Rest in peace, Kanan. Yeah. Um, no, Kanan's champion, and I love references to Kanan in this series,
Hmm.
and really just kind of everywhere. Him and just seeing him as a young Jedi Padawan and Bad Batch was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah.
Just little threads, little things, kind of all throughout. What you're saying about um, the prequel, no, sorry, the sequel trilogy, right?
Hmm.
And with Ahsoka, it really kind of shows like they are going in with Mando. What all the other shows, series, books, whatever did for the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy. The same is going to happen for the newer trilogy, right? They're going to enhance it by telling stories and filling in gaps. Now, were the gaps
Exactly.
more apparent and blatant and sloppy in that one? For sure. Can we fix it? Yes, and they
Yeah.
will do a pretty good job. It just isn't going to be as passive and graceful as enhancements that have happened to the other two trilogies, but that's fine. They
Exactly.
have tools to fix things.
They've done it a little bit. I actually have been playing Jedi Survivor,
Mm.
the that game, which is fantastic. And
Is that the
they
second
do a
one?
little, yeah, the second one. Yep. Fallen Order is the first one, and then this is the follow up to that, and there will be a third game, which is
Ooh.
pretty awesome. But they've done a good job of filling in some of the holes in part two and part three through this video game. So,
Great.
which all the stories is awesome. How the canon is kind of growing again, and we're getting logical steps, which is nice because we have three more movies coming out, two of which will be dealing with things we've just discussed. So that's going to be pretty great because Filoni gets his movie, which will be the wrap up of this, and then
Yep.
we also have the Ray movie. So Ray will
Yeah.
be getting her own movie, so that should be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think what maybe wasn't as appreciated is how much time there is to explore between 6 and 7. Like there's
Hmm.
a ton of time. There's much more. Well, is there much more time? I feel like there might be equivalent between the trilogies.
We're only kind of getting, so this is right now is 10 years after
Yeah,
um,
Ahsoka.
the Ahsoka.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ahsoka is 10 years after, and when we get to the new First Order, that's almost 15 or 20 years after. No,
yeah.
longer than that, because Ben Kenobi is like 26, 27
Hmm.
in Force Awakens, so we've almost got 30 years.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's a much bigger gap than the other way around because
yeah,
Luke
because
was like
Ben
19.
Solo, nah, Ben Solo is probably like born right now.
Right.
10 years after. So yeah, I'd say right about there.
Yeah. There's a
So
20 year
yeah,
between 3 and 4,
okay,
I
yeah.
would say. Because Luke was about 19 in A New Hope, I would believe.
16, 17 in A New Hope. Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay. So
it's,
even less
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I still want to see more Empire era stuff, which I'm happy we do get to see with like things like Andor,
Hmm.
Solo, a little bit of that, but definitely want them to
Yep.
dig more into that. But not that we don't get Empire stuff with the remnants of the Empire kind of like lingering around, which is always fun.
Right.
Um, in this and that's the interesting story that they're telling, which I think is helping a lot to the newer trilogy, even though it's very
Yep.
passive. It just answers more meta questions about like the New Republic, like why do they suck, and like how did the First Order just pop up? The very boring like political, just the dialogue about the entire government is made up of ex Imperials. Like, well, there's a really that's a good explanation.
They were able to throw those little one-liners out there and make it go, oh, okay, I get it now. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and and that just it's just cool because it just really expands it because obviously at the end of this Thrawn returns.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert. Um, and they roll up on Dathomir. Not to jump right to the end, but it introduces quite the story to tell
Hmm.
now in universe, right? Because we got to dip out of the universe. Obviously, everything's free game out there. We'll get to that later. But the in universe effect of Thrawn returning is pretty incredible, and like that just sets up hopefully a very nice, at least one movie, if not a trilogy of events that occur between the trilogies here. Like that's
Gosh,
huge.
I'm really hoping we get a full Filoni trilogy out of this because the first movie, just him returning and how he basically builds the First Order. Whether it's going to be named that, however, they're going to twist it and turn it and what they're going to use it for. But I mean, that's Thrawn. The impetus is he's the reason that they were able to come back and rise again. So he's basically a better Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, yeah, much more. I mean, and that was a great dialogue. He's like, I've seen many Imperial captains or whatever like assume the same thing. Like we are not doing that ever. Not in my
Because
playbook.
he admits it. He admits that he's like, I was bested by a single Jedi in his heroics. He's like, it's not a thing. We can't underestimate a single one of them.
And the cool thing about that is it's kind of like a trope buster for like
Hmm.
that was a trope of just it happens all the time. Like they even really abused it in the Last Jedi, where that entire opening sequence was just that trope over and over again.
Yep.
So it's cool that someone in the universe, just like Thrawn, right, super meta thinker as it is just like, I'm going to acknowledge that this is a ridiculous trope that we always fall into, and it's
Hmm.
just underestimating our enemies. Stop it.
Which is fantastic. Yeah. Because I think that's one of the things Filoni has done in all of his series. I mean, the Inquisitors, they were kind of trope busters. And then you had even in the Clone Wars when you actually got to know the clones, when you follow Echo
Yep.
and Fives. And they're all little trope busters that he likes to do. That no, for the most part, it's true and right that all the everyone is that aloof and stupid and
Yeah.
makes those big mistakes, but not everybody. And it's
Right.
important that he brings that sort of reality and grounding and a little more critical thinking to all of us. And this show really did that. It brought all of the critical thinking. It forced you to like facial reactions made you go, wait, what?
Yeah, and Mickelson, yeah, like you said, crushes Thrawn. Like the demeanor's all there, and I've listened to the new Thrawn books,
Hmm.
and very on character, like just well done. And that he's such a distinct character
Hmm.
too, very unique. And that's the thing that Ahsoka does really well is even with the new ones, like Thrawn, pre-existing but also recycled at this point because the new trilogy does redo his character a little bit, or more so the events around
Right.
his character as heir to the Empire. But um, Star Wars has to have really good bad guys, really good
Hmm.
ones. And obviously, I think that's a pitfall of the sequels is they stumbled a lot there. Obviously,
Yeah.
Ren was fantastic, but he was like the bright spot throughout the whole thing, the whole Fallen Prince
Hmm.
idea.
Yep.
Fantastic. But other than that, right? Like Snoke was short lived. Palpatine
Yeah.
just comes back. That's not good enough. Whereas
No.
like see prequels, original trilogy, top notch enemies,
I
bad
mean,
guys.
even Mandalorian, we've got
Oh
Moff
yeah,
Gideon. He's
Moff
awesome.
Gideon's rad.
He's terrifying. The whole
Yeah,
ISB, and that's a great
that
thing with Andor is giving us the ISB
yeah,
because now we get to see the secret police Gestapo effect, which is it's all the tiers of the Empire. It's not just this whole the Empire. You have to worry about Vader showing up. Vader's hunting. He's busy doing his own thing. He's not going to see
hmm
the everyman, and if you see him, you don't
right,
want to because he's probably just going to tear you apart.
yeah,
But you're more likely to see an ISB agent everywhere. A couple of them in town. Uh, that was a really cool thing they did. And with this, we get previously we had not only Vader but Grand Moff Tarkin, and
yeah,
Tarkin was brilliant because he was so cold and so calculating. Well, now we get this Chiss who's just so brutal, and when it comes to tactics, he's comfortable having three layers of something. So that way, when his first one even fails, he's thinking he pulled it off when he tells him to rain fire, thinking he won't have to get into a ground war. He's just going to blow him out of the sky. He's upset. And you can see it on his face. And Mickelson plays that perfectly. So it's
hmm
wonderful to see these tiers of bad guys way, way better than anything we really got in the sequel trilogy.
yeah. And it's fantastic that they were able to capitalize Thrawn and
Hmm.
bring him to live action and hit all those notes. But then around him, he has fantastic supporting bad guys, whether it's the Night Troopers,
Yeah. Hmm.
right, going full
Awesome.
undead moment. amazing, right? We needed that in Star Wars. Everyone's been asking
Yep.
for the horror in Star Wars.
We
But
got
then
it.
I like Elspeth. Like she's a good character.
Hmm.
Obviously, Night Mothers are always fantastic characters. They're easy characters to play. They really only say like 5 different things all the time.
Yep. And it's
Um,
great though. I mean, Claudia Black nailed it. That's all I needed her for. It's like, thank you. I was
yeah,
watching Farscape a few weeks ago and was like, it'd be great to see Claudia Black in something again. And then boom.
boom, there she is. And they're much like the fates in like
Hmm.
Hercules or something like
Yep.
that, which is always cool. But then you add in our Balin and Shin, like fantastic, and they're not,
Hmm.
and they're great because they are what I kind of see as good characters playing bad roles,
Yes.
in a sense, because I'm not completely convinced that either of them are evil per se, but
Oh, I don't think villain would at all be correct. They
yeah,
make mention of it once, and I think it sticks perfectly that they are dark Jedi. So
yeah,
it's not necessarily that they believe in the Jedi Order or the principles of the teachings. They're on the darker side of that, but they're not Sith, and they're very
right,
clearly not Sith. They're very open to surviving. I think they're more like the survivors who are Jedi. So they're probably closer to what gray Jedi traditionally were.
yeah,
So I
yeah, and
love that they're going in that realm.
yeah, and Shin is, probably as a reinforcement for teachings, like naturally suspicious, much like Obi-Wan
Hmm.
was in Episode
Yep.
1 with Qui-Gon, of what's going on around them. Right, that's a
Hmm.
very good Jedi thing to do. Is just like, what's happening here? Like, does this make sense? Whereas Balin is following a very, not cult, but like deep thread
Almost
of
exactly
thinking.
like Qui-Gon did,
Yeah, exactly.
because Qui-Gon got lost in that call trying to find where was this thing coming from, and it's Anakin Skywalker. So who's Balin looking for? So it's fascinating what they've opened there.
That scene with Balin, holy crap! Like holy Lord of the Rings.
Right? Right? I
And
was like, this is awesome. It's the first men.
yeah, and the thing I love about them stepping out of the galaxy like this is they are
Hmm.
entirely in a different galaxy. That isn't too strange, but it is very definitely strange compared to
Hmm.
the normal galaxy there, and at least on this planet. Um, and there is a very ancient feeling to it, and very, we're off the edge of the map feeling here.
Yeah, we are not in known space. This is not a known world. This is very much so where they mention it, where fairy tales come from.
And I would be completely fine with all sorts of fairy tale type stuff happening in that
Hmm.
in that realm because it's allowed to. Because it is, off the edge of the map. It's most of the galaxy is more or less like explored, known,
Hmm.
right? The map is colored in, and that just has an effect as intelligent life discovers things and places
Hmm.
their mind around things. But this, they're off the edge. These things are allowed to happen, which is exciting because I think we talked about, not with you, but in our last episode where we talked about Ahsoka, um, I mentioned that I love Star Wars for the fact that it is allowed to get very mythological
Hmm.
about things. You're allowed to do and explore these concepts in like pockets of things.
Yep.
And Clone Wars always dabbled in that and tried. Dave definitely in Clone Wars played with how those blended together, whether it was Palpatine fighting the Zillo Beast, right? Like
Hmm.
on Coruscant, like that's where they started the branch where you're like, wait, what's happening? This is a little weird, but it's also cartoon. It's fun.
I guess
Um,
we can do with this. Okay.
and I think that's where he explored like what can we play around with here and there, and like Solo with the giant like maw
Hmm.
monster, and
Yep.
even the space whales, and that's where we're allowed to kind of touch and go with like this stuff explores. But characters, they follow those threads, and they're
Hmm.
allowed to go down these rabbit holes
Yep.
of Yoda in with the like light side fates,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
or like Mortis and all those sorts of things.
Hmm.
So it's all about following these threads, and you're allowed to go as deep as you want with these threads.
And it's nice because it's once again, like you said, the mythology of it. Well, there's everything is bred from a place, And I think that's why I love Knights of the Old Republic, that old game, because it opened all of those things that were in books, that were in tales, that were stories of stories lost to legend, that we got to kind of tap into. And it's opened up this universe and this world where you can do within so much. And I think that's where Dave Filoni crushes it, is by being able to create these fantastical stories that still somehow land, because it's part of a mythos, part of a mythology. And why wouldn't it be true? Everything else is true. There's giant walking teddy bears who speak and growl to you. Like, you can do anything. You can do whatever you want. Once you're open into that world, you can play within that world, and they do a great job of it. And he just gets good stories. He gets kind of, if we were able to pursue the legends of Hercules right now, if I could go march up Olympus and find some ruins, and then all of a sudden start speaking to Ares or something crazy, like, that's what we get to play with and get to go to in this Star Wars universe. And one of the reasons I love it, just like you had mentioned, because you can dabble in so many different areas and have fun. I mean, we have as humans, so why wouldn't they do something crazy on different planets?
Yeah. And when Dave talks about when Dave talks in interviews about things, it's my favorite, because he's such a fan, right?
Hmm.
And he's been mentored so well by George, and I love that George just passed the baton to him. Not that there actually physically is one, but it's been
Yeah.
passed.
Oh, it's
And,
absolutely.
and Disney knows this, whether no contract could change it unless like they somehow forbade him from ever working for them again. But they know that's not in their best interest.
No.
Um, but when he talks about um, the creation of Ahsoka,
Hmm.
is one of my favorite ones because, and I think this is, and the things he talks about are usually, you could tell, very learning moments for him where they're very impactful for him in his journey. And the one that I'm thinking of is George is like, Anakin, he starts describing Ahsoka like the apprentice, and Dave's like, Anakin didn't have an apprentice. And George is like, Anakin had an apprentice. And like, it just is, dude. And that's what like he taught him, is like, don't let the, and I think this is the problem with like parts of the fandom, is they get hung up on the technical and like written limitations of like what is and isn't. Whereas
Hmm.
like, and like you said earlier, people try to tell Star Wars stories in Star Wars, where it's like, actually Star Wars is just a medium to tell any other story you want,
Hmm.
whether it's horror, like whatever the genre is, you just put it in Star Wars, play with the building blocks there, and otherwise you're pretty not limited, other
Yeah.
than just you just have to be, you just have to, and that's how George ran it for 40 years. People were
Hmm.
just like, does this look good? He's like, yes, no, 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 good. Like,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've seen that. I mean, we've gotten Mandalorian, we've gotten the Pale Rider story,
Yeah,
out of Mando. Then we wind up with Boba Fett trying to do the white savior, going into the Indian nation, teaching them not to get shot by a train.
yeah. Love trains in Star Wars
Oh man, trains in Star Wars are the best. However, those mag rails just work randomly throughout the desert. It's phenomenal.
all the time.
Go all the time. There's never a breakdown.
No,
Wonderful service, those trains.
they're
Um,
tapping into like planetary quantum stuff. That's the
exactly.
thing. Like, what is that technology? Like hover, everything hovers. Like, why?
Everything. There's some sort of ion technology with everything, but not really. So,
Right.
which is fantastic, and it's a lot of fun to play with, and they give you that space. And I think that's the great thing about Star Wars, is it's meant to be, and this is kind of the Hamilton Jeffersonian strict constructionalist versus loose constructionalist. I've always been a loose constructionalist. I think that the world is open to allow for more, and you just need to
Hmm.
grow and have fun in it. And Filoni's characters were so great and worthwhile. They translated so easily into such a fantastic series that we got with Ahsoka, while still also continuing to grow and build more characters. We're going back with Sabine now, and we're getting her perspective. We're getting more of Hera. We get more backstory of Mon Mothma a little bit, and what she was like ruling. We get
Never get enough
further
Mon Mothma
backstory.
action.
I love Mon Mothma, man. She was the bomb. And
Like,
especially in Andor, she's fantastic.
yeah, like she was always just like, you knew like her shit didn't stink. Like, oh, she's important. Like in the original
Oh,
trilogy, and then turn
yeah.
around Andor, it's like, can I get another Mon Mothma scene, please? Oh, this
Right?
episode is all Mon Mothma. Yes,
Yeah, it
let's
was
go.
awesome. It's so much better than when I would go flip on Clone Wars and be like, "Oh, Padme."
Yeah,
Ugh. that was that was where they really fell down, man. They tried to be like, okay, so this is what it's like to govern in the old republic, and it sucks. Like, really, they could have just said that and just cut all of those episodes out.
yeah, yeah. We get a lot of Padme running around, constantly like trying to uphold rules that she wants to exist but don't actually exist, kind of thing.
Right?
And that was one of the things I saw someone complain about, like Hera in this, was that she she's surprised that she's trying to get court-martialed for an unsanctioned mission where she lost 3 X-wings, 3 people died, and she has nothing to say for it. And she's surprised, like, come on, Hera, like, rule follower,
Yeah, you should know better.
of the Ghost crew.
Like, you're a rebel, sure, and you follow the rules of the rebels, but you're not good at governance, and that's fine. But
Right.
I mean, she always has that horseshoe. There's always someone who C3PO style who can save her.
Yeah. Oh, 3PO
I love
comes in
3PO.
clutch.
It would have been Leia. Well, I would have loved to have seen Leia. That would have
She's
been
busy.
wonderful. Yeah.
But they're probably getting scared to do CGI because, like,
Oh
everyone
no, I
complains
wouldn't
about
even
it.
ask for CGI. I'd say
No.
just recast her at this point. Like, we know
Yeah,
we
I
know
don't
it's
know.
Carrie Fisher. Just put in Billy Lord for the 5 minutes and let's just get it done and we're good.
Yeah, I don't know what the hesitation on recasting characters is. I don't know if like there's bad taste from Solo,
Yeah.
even though it's a younger Han Solo. Nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
So I don't know why they don't
Well,
just
Chewbacca's
recast
fur
her.
didn't look quite the same. All right. His musculature was a little off.
A little off, a little scrawny, Chewy.
Just little bits. Like, come on, Chewie. Get over this whole I was incarcerated thing and let's move it along.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. They definitely need to take that step forward and recast
Mhm.
them. And we're fine. We'd be able to survive.
I mean, we're gonna be okay. They're gonna have to unfortunately recast Balin Skull because we have too much of his story that we absolutely have to get.
You just cannot end with like Frodo overlooking Mordor and just be like, "Yep, we're done with that."
That would have been like if the boats pulled up in between the two statues pointing out and they've been like, hey, they're the old kings, and then credits done. There's your
Credits.
Lord of the Rings.
You just follow everyone else. It's just the third movie, but with no Frodo Sam, and it's just
None.
like you see Mount Doom blow up, and it's just inferred that they did the thing.
You pretty much got it at that point. In fact, it's actually just someone sitting on top of these lords, these old king statues, watching everything happen around them.
Yeah,
And they're like, oh, these were the Lord of the Rings. And then it cuts credits.
yeah, yeah. That was so fantastic. But yeah, they're just gonna have to bite the bullet there and just recast them.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, bless that person, please. Good luck. You got a lot of big, large shoes to fill there.
Hmm.
But we want to see the story though, right? We're not don't
We
need to
need the
complain about
story.
how well those shoes are filled. Just give us the story now.
Find someone of the like a similar build, have him find a mask, and that's part of the
Uh-huh.
power. And then he's just wearing a mask, and we're
Yeah.
fine.
Ooh, yeah. Just do a little CGI
Hmm.
on him, and like he just walks down, and like he's like, "Oh, look at this."
That's it. And then
Fixed.
bah, and he takes over, and it's over. There it is. Whoever the guy is, that's the new Ray Stevenson, folks.
There we go. Got him. So, do you think? Obviously, it's very convenient that there's a whole nother galaxy now,
Hmm.
and does Ahsoka and Sabine ever return? Like, that's an easy out for those two characters when it comes to where have they been? Where are they
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, it could
Wait,
be.
nope, we're good. I was just
And
thinking about
then
Mando continuation, but nope, this is all after Mando.
yeah, this is all after Mando. And in fact, we could get that because this could be Ahsoka, the movie, is actually just her dealing with stuff and Balin, and that might focus in that galaxy, on that planet they're in,
Cool.
right? And then in Peridium. And then we turn the other side, and Andor, well, not Andor, sorry, have whatever next story is coming up focus on what they do back home.
Someone else. That's what Filoni just now stays in this new galaxy, and someone else can just do a Thrawn trilogy.
Yep.
Favreau can do the Thrawn
Favreau,
trilogy, and
perfect.
then Filoni will just like hang out. But he's like, I'm gonna work on this other stuff over in this new galaxy I made.
Right? Well, because Mandalorian season 4 could be all about the battle with Thrawn
Ah,
and this new encroachment, this new thing that's upon us, and that leads to the 3-part movie series. And then the single movie series for Ahsoka is just her dealing with the ultimate power, and in the end, she attains it and is able to transport them wherever they need to go.
I think Mando accidentally hitches a ride on a Purgle and just ends up in that galaxy. He's like, what the?
That would be awesome. He just shows up with the baby and he's like, I guess we're doing this.
That would be. At this point, I would be fine with that trope of just Grogu and Mando just arriving in some situation that they
Yep.
don't have anything to do with, but we're here. Um, We're not happy about it, but we're here.
The
Mando would be.
consistent fish out of water. Like,
Yeah.
we've never nailed it. So here we go. Let's keep going.
Mando's just like, damn it, was really trying to retire.
All of a sudden, Mando eerily turns into some sort of combination of like Quantum Leap and Gunsmoke, where he's just popping to the wrong thing, but always solve it with guns. All right.
Yep, that's right. Oh man, and this was actually a nice criticism because someone was like, not criticism, it was just making it funny once again of the sequels. But you know how they
Mhm.
did like somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we need a whole series about this? Couldn't they just been like somehow Thrawn returned?
I completely see that actually. Yeah. We could have gone with that. I mean, it's the same thing. Mandalorian has been used so often to fix what was wrong in the sequels, like Moff Gideon having the clones of himself. And it's
Yeah,
like, okay, so you're saying cloning technology was kind of common after the Empire wiped Camino and basically took all of that
well, Bad
information.
Batch too.
Yep. Bad Batch did that too. Yep.
They're
So
working on it.
Filoni's all over this, man.
Yeah,
He's taking every angle of it.
he's like, I got this covered. We can fix it. He's like, it's easy,
Yep.
guys. But you
Just have
can't.
a good
Don't
story.
just have a good story. As long as it kind of like loosely touches everything it needs to or
Hmm.
doesn't. Like just that's the other cool thing is like Balin Skull, like he's kind of like a loose thread. Like he doesn't have he is so new, and so is Morgan Elsbeth. Like they
Hmm.
only need to touch what is necessary. They have no
Yeah.
existing, and it's a great example that you can introduce very brand new characters without much need to retroactively thread them to something. Right? We
Hmm.
don't need to say, "Oh yeah, Balin was Dooku's apprentice or whatever." Like you don't they don't have to do that with that. Like just let
Right.
him be um brand new. Like Morgan Elsbeth. I don't think there's anything more on her other than like her appearance in Mando and then
No.
Ahsoka, and that's fine.
And she's just one of the random Night Sisters because I think they play that well too. Is the idea that of the Night Sisters, there's like what 7 left because the Empire realized what a threat they were, so they glassed the planet and wiped out the women because those were the ones with all the power. So Morgan Elsbeth would naturally have to kind of be an edge warlord
Yeah.
and a fringe warlord. Sorry.
Niche.
Yeah, niche, real
Niche.
niche.
Real niche.
Real niche, regular Superman over here.
What do you bring to the table? Magic. Literal green smoke magic.
Okay, yeah, you're in. Yeah, we'll definitely get you hired.
Sweet.
When can you
Can you
start?
give orders to stormtroopers? Yes.
Awesome. Can you
I can
raise the
even resurrect.
dead?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Did not see that coming. We're definitely going to need that. That'll be usable.
Yeah. And I saw um Tim. I can't. Mike calls him Tim Bicycle because he can't say his last name.
He'll
But
love that.
our boy, yeah, he already knows it. He brought it right up to him. But from the FSS Popcast,
Hmm.
he has an article out, and he threw out like one of the bad notes on Ahsoka was the gunships that did no gunning. It was just drop ships that just, troop carriers.
Yeah.
You know, fair. I didn't pick up on that, but I was like, yeah, it's true. Um, and I guess people had like high hopes for those stormtroopers. I
Hmm.
didn't have any hopes, and maybe that's just like the way I am about things. I was like, okay, yeah, they're just kind of like shot fodder. Like, just let them kind of like die. I didn't expect them to like beat up Sabine, Ahsoka, and
Right.
Ezra. I didn't. Did anyone else expect this? I
I
didn't.
think I loved it because it was that whole idea that, of course, Thrawn's forces and only the ones who had survived would be that much stronger. And the
Yeah,
fact that they have the whole Japanese ceramic fixing everything with the gold flecks and having that all throughout their uniforms, having that all throughout their armor. In fact, having it all throughout the Star Destroyer itself. The actual Chimera has all of that like fixed with gold was so rad. And getting all of those red sashes as well. All those red sashes to fix all of those parts on their stormtrooper armor tells you how much damage they've gone through.
yeah.
So, and the idea that this one guy doesn't have any damage, he's pretty great. He's pretty beast. I don't know what he's going to be like, but I can't wait to see Amos in action.
I know, my boy. Everyone's
Wes
boy.
Chatham, man, he's great. He's of course he's that guy.
Yeah, and I like to. That's a cool like thing about Thrawn is he isn't his character. He's not cold and calculated. He's not
Hmm.
like Tarkin. Tarkin would be like, no, no painting the ship, no, uh, customizing your armor. Like, get out of here.
It was
Thrawn's
no
like, yeah,
morale. It was cold and
right,
to the level. He was the numbers guy. Yeah.
yeah. Thrawn's like necessary.
Hmm.
Let them paint. Yeah, if they want to take some dye and like paint some cool symbols on the underside of the Star Destroyer, looks rad. Just make it blue. Um,
It's so true, and that's kind of the cool part that tells on his story and the Chiss people in general, because they're very much so a high, elegant, intelligent, exceptionally high-minded people.
yeah,
So they battle, and they are also cold and calculating, but they're treacherous. And the treachery is what makes the Chiss so great because they'll smile at you one day, but then in order to advance, if they need to kill you, if you're in their way, they just do it. And high society looks well upon it. They're like, "Oh, good job,
good
yeah,
job.
you know,
Do it
nice,
again.
yeah, try that one more time." Jordan, what's up, buddy?
Jordan says, Casey,
Oh,
awesome to see you. I would have to come on the show tonight, but wouldn't let me on. Hopefully, we can hang out soon. That's a lie. I would let Jordan come on the show anytime, any place,
all the time, Jordan. We love
all
you
the
so
time.
much, brother. We met over a battle of the Jokers, and
Yeah, he did want me to say Jared Leto says hi. Oh, bad taste in your mouth. Wash it out.
Mhm. I'm gonna take my Heath Ledger sweat right there. Well, that just sounds terrible. I'm not gonna die. It's not.
Yeah,
We're fine. It's
we're
okay. That
good.
wasn't.
Nothing.
I don't want to go that big.
No foreshadowing.
Oh gosh, now you took a swig.
Yep.
Which one of
Here
us
we
is on the
go.
Ledger swig? I don't know.
Jordan.
Yeah, definitely Jordan.
Jordan.
Um, but yeah, that's one of the things I think is great with Thrawn is showing that difference that he has from Tarkin and what he brought to the table as a Grand Admiral versus a Grand Moff. And I think it's nice that they have those distinctions between the two, and each character shows that and has shown that with the very little they've been given, because neither character has an extensive amount of screen time. I
Right.
think Tarkin might no, I think Thrawn in Rebels might have more than Tarkin in Clone Wars.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah.
Tarkin's usually he's kind of like a runner up to Padme when it comes to just like throwing him in and like as a hook to like here's another character we're gonna get a little bit more story on that isn't necessary.
At all. We know who Grand Moff Tarkin is out the gate. He is
Yeah,
the cold, calculating guy who will sacrifice for success. It doesn't matter. He'll do what it takes to win, and he'll get it done.
yeah, and it's just like I just have I did not care for oh here's Tarkin as a younger self like
Hmm.
he was nicer and no you can't
No, he
no it
wasn't.
doesn't matter
He's-
he sucks all the time he's just a cold bad guy like
and that's a good thing. You can
it's a
have
good
a
thing yeah
one-dimensional cold bad guy. That's
yeah
fine. I'm fine with
totally
that.
is and that's the thing too, is like attempts to paint him in a different light, but at the end of the episode, he is exactly in the light he should be.
Yep.
I knew that. Thank you.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you. Oh,
Here's him
Padme
working with
is going to
Anakin.
go. Yeah, here's Padme now going back to talk to another random rogue planet to try to avoid them from becoming separatists. It's like, are you supposed to represent Naboo? Like, what about Naboo? What about you have two sets of people? You're just going to
It,
leave it all with Jar Jar? Okay.
it's like that Tales of the Jedi episode where Dooku and Qui Gon are trying to settle that kidnapping
Yeah.
of the senator's son.
Hmm.
They were disgruntled people because the senator was, he was off making money and stuff. Not that Padme
Yeah.
didn't not do that, but I'm sure she definitely did because she wasn't not poor.
I mean, she was working with kings and queens and emperors and
Yeah,
empresses and whatever weird titles everybody else had on other planets. So yeah, yeah,
yeah,
she got a little kickback.
yeah. But like, so like, were her campaigns, if she got voted in, I assume she did, but were her campaigns like, I'm working on the meta, most meta, like good of the galaxy. How that impacts you day to day, my good Nabooian folk, do not mind.
There
Don't
you
mind it.
were yourself with it. Well, I think it's they almost made it seem like it was something that the queen had to select.
Yeah,
Like the
true.
queen selected the senators in Naboo specifically. I don't know how the
Right.
rest of anyone else did it because who knows how the Trade Federation even stayed. All the same people, still the same viceroy. Come on, get out of here. What are you doing?
They got a new viceroy. New got kicked out, I think.
But like, yeah, after the Clone Wars began, sure, when he's already officially a separatist.
Yeah. I think on the Republic, yeah, on the Republic side, they had new ones for the
Hmm.
Federation, and then but like news just like, all right, separatists. Yeah. What a weird thing.
It
Maybe it's
was.
foreshadowing. When are we gonna get our senators for our corporations
Oh, super
officially?
excited. Can't wait.
They wouldn't do that because they would just blow the cover because they already exist probably.
They're already there. They just have
They're
to
already
take
there.
they we just need them to start wearing the patches on their blazers
Yep.
so we know who's in control of which one. Be like, "Oh, you're a Nestle guy. All right,
Yeah.
cool."
Nestle. Big Coca.
Yeah, watch out for those guys.
Um, now that we
Someone's
have
a
a
bridge
six,
and tunnel crew.
yeah. Now that we have a live action Thrawn, um, do you think we'll get reuse of Mickelson in Empire era? Because he's around all throughout the Empire. Like,
Hmm.
he wasn't not there. Um, if we'll ever get him again in a retro fashion.
It'll be interesting if we see a retro version of that, if it's functionally wise. Because if we're
Yeah.
going to do that, he's going to have to go in place of Moff Tarkin. Because obviously, the use of AI and CGI has been such an issue right now, and obviously, we still have strikes over it due to that touchiness. I don't think we'll see Moff Tarkin again, but I could
Right.
absolutely see now using Lars Mikkelsen in place of that. Yeah, I think it's perfect because they were so similar. I mean, they're the top two guys. The only people that were on their level was Vader. That's it. And Vader was even a little above them. So,
Are they equivalents?
yes. Yeah,
Grand Moff and Grand Admiral?
so think Grand Admiral, think him at Navy, and then Moff, think him Army. So that
Okay.
was, but they were like the Joint Chiefs. Those were the top two that you had.
Yeah. Wait, so in Bad Batch, was Thrawn in Bad Batch?
I don't remember. Honestly, I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to like
Because
flip through the Rolodex.
because they had that meeting on that
Hmm.
planet in that citadel,
Hmm.
and they at least made mention of him. And I know they mentioned
Yeah.
him in Mando. I'm just
Hmm.
trying to think because yeah, there's definitely places to stick him in there.
Yeah,
He could
I mean,
easily
I
show up
think
in Bad Batch for sure.
Andor would be great. Bad
Andor.
Batch would be awesome. You could have him in. Gosh, you could throw him in almost anything because he's throughout the Imperial reign. I mean, he
Yeah.
is the massive part of why they're victorious.
When does he come into the Empire?
So here was it. Yeah, so Thrawn was one of those guys who wanted to join the Empire willingly when it became the Empire.
Yeah.
because the Chiss, he just wanted to protect his planet and his people. That's all he cared about. His whole thing was just to have stability and peace in the galaxy, so that way he could go back and be like, "Hey, everybody, I'm the best." And the Chiss people, pretty much, they're very xenophobic. They don't like to go out. They don't want to be seen by other people. They live their own world. They're higher, smarter,
Yeah.
better than everyone else. And that's kind of the beauty, is Thrawn is that way, but he understands that he can use this as an opportunity to take over the entire galaxy and then kind of come back as the conquering hero to Chiss, which is really the whole thing, to just rub it in his people's faces.
Yeah, and
So
he doesn't need the Empire sticking their nose into Chiss regions as anyone who controlled the entire galaxy would.
exactly. So he's able to kind of get that separation and get that for his people. So that's his driving cause. That's all he's about. That's all he's in it for. So he doesn't care. Sacrifices will be made. I mean, the coffins at the end of this series showed that he's like, you didn't just die, you will be resurrected and brought again. And it's the entire Empire army is now going to be zombies. How exciting is that? Who doesn't want
See,
zombies?
yeah, see, dude has like no rules. He's like, ah, nice sister magic. This is interesting. This could be useful. I
Hmm.
like this. Do
Everything
I
is
do I
useful to him.
yeah, do I agree, do I do this in my free time? Hell no. But glad you guys can do it.
I would love to see Mandalorian wind up on Chiss.
Mm, yeah, really
That
just
could
thinking of
be
like, where's something cool in the galaxy? We need just one more like 30 minutes of send Mando and Grogu there. They will
boom.
do just fine.
Yep. And that way we can get a little more backstory on Thrawn and find out who he is and what he's about and why he's driven this way.
Yeah.
Because I don't really remember getting much of that in Rebels.
Yeah, definitely not.
Uh,
All that comes from the books. You have
yeah.
Thrawn is such a book character,
Yeah.
in terms of like, and as establishing him and understanding
Mhm.
him. Otherwise, like, I can see how that could be a little bit. I mean, he really kind of has a Vader essence to like
Mhm.
general audiences, right? Because especially
Yeah.
now, general audiences, not just like, because you got like live action. Well, you got the trilogies. That's like super general.
Mhm.
Live action, animated, books.
Yep.
And you really have to go all the way back into the books to really know anything deeper about Thrawn. Otherwise, he's kind of like Vader in Episode 4. Like,
Yeah.
bad guy. He's cold, tactical, cool. Where'd he come from? I don't know.
No,
Do I care?
no idea. It's
No.
just a big blue guy with red eyes.
Big
Isn't he terrifying?
blue.
Yeah, man.
Why is he
Those
blue?
always be wary of the blue guys.
Yeah.
Never trust the blue guys. Don't be
Red
like
eyes
Captain
too.
Kirk.
Is he
Yeah.
a vampire?
Could be space vampire.
Space vampires. They're
Hmm.
blue, not necessarily pale like they are on Earth. They are blue because they are in space. Why?
I thought the ones
Sure.
on Earth were shiny.
It depends. Pale. So pale
So
they shine.
it's Washington State. That's just their area.
Yeah, yeah, that's the offshoot. Our American breed of homegrown American breed vampires. They're
Yeah,
shiny.
they're super shiny, as opposed to blue guys because of the moon. I'm
Space,
gonna go with that.
cold, blue. Ahsoka has a
Yeah,
lot
that
of
works.
blue elements in it too, like the star map and all that kind of stuff. So
Blue makes me
fitting.
sad, and when I see the Admiral, I get sad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not fun.
no.
He's cool, but not fun.
Yeah, he's very cool, but I don't know if I'd want to go to a party with him.
No,
No,
he's usually plotting something,
most of the
calculating
time.
something. Okay. So, one thing I did not remember at all from Rebels, and this apparently is the thread, once again, pulling this from Tim's article, is kind of like the small Kanan moments and Sabine
Mhm.
moments where he was trying to coach her out of her shell, if you will, right? And those are the threads that suggest that she could be a Jedi
Mhm.
someday. Um, though how quickly she was able to just like practice with a cup, hasn't had a lot of time to do her training unless she's done a lot of training in her cell.
Mhm.
Because I thought that was a weird bit of dialogue where she's like, "You've been keeping up with your training." Was she referencing like for the past 10 years, or is she referencing in the past like 10 hours? Because that's like all the time that's really passed for her to do more
True.
training.
Yeah, when she's in the
Um,
Purgle. Well, yeah, because we're not sure how long that space wheel travel is.
True.
And Balin does give the opportunity of like, hey, how's your training going? This is a good time for reflection. You know
Right.
what you ought to do is just be grateful you have this time. I love his reactions to everything. Anytime someone speaks to him, he's like, "Pfft, silly idiot."
I have something wise to say.
Yeah, brilliant.
But yeah, I thought her force push was pretty intense.
Hmm.
That she kind of just like picked that up. But you know, maybe it's just latent. I'm not. I'm a fan of latent powers. Like it's a thing. It's established. So not
Yep,
everyone has to be a Mary Sue just because they can learn something really quickly. It's just latent
exactly.
abilities. Happens in Dragon Ball Z all the time.
Hmm.
Um, they literally have characters that just surface your latent abilities, and then boom, you can kick ass now.
And also, that's someone who, has trained with Jedi for
Long time.
14 years of her life.
Yeah.
She was surrounded or worked with Jedi in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the
So
lightsaber thing is completely in character because Mandalorians are just weapons masters. Like they can just wield whatever.
that's the beauty of every fight scene. And I want to make sure the statement is put out there into the world. These fight scenes are perfect. These fight
Oh,
scenes are the epitome of what these characters are. Mandalorians are trained with their armor to become one with their armor. And the way the actress pulls off playing Sabine Wren is perfect. The fact that she goes for blasters sometimes first, the fact that she holds and wields her saber the same way she would a vibroblade.
yep.
It's all very similar, and she has to work on the forms to get those right. She has to work to actually try to do the other force powers and using this lightsaber without cutting herself, which she's pretty
Eh,
smooth with. Yeah. Eh. Luckily, it's Beskar steel, so she can smack it a few times.
yeah, you know, lightsabers aren't as potent as they used to be.
Exactly. Hey, she's just on a low hum, but that was one of the
Huang
great
needs to
things.
explain that. They need to add some
Mhm.
Huang dialogue that's like, you use those parts, so it's a little less effective. Whereas like Qui Gon and like the Jedi Order, they use like top notch materials and they can just
Yep.
slice through anything.
Yeah, you're
Shin,
you're a little slow end.
yeah, Shin's orange blade, not that great. You know,
Mm.
you could get stabbed by it and live, no big deal.
You'll be
Maybe
fine.
that's it.
It could be a different style, or maybe it's also where you get stabbed because I had to rewatch
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
1,
It
and
was a
that's why
little
it's
off center.
right there because I was like, wait a minute, Qui-Gon got stabbed exactly there too. So what's going on here? But no, in fact, they did not.
It's left of center.
Left of center.
Yep.
Yep.
So kind of like getting shot. But
Hmm.
then again, I don't know. I see these stormtroopers. I know the armor is supposed to be like shrapnel. Like that's why clones had it. It was more so for explosive
Hmm.
protection. But man, blasters, they take people down instantly.
Yeah.
Lightsabers do not.
Interesting. Interesting
But they
how
do
that works.
sometimes. Depends on who
Sometimes.
you are.
Yeah. Hey, that's the joy of Star Wars.
Yep,
You
yep.
have to
Figure it
suspend
out
every
later.
point of disbelief and just hope that someone in 10 to 25 years will have that piece of the story to put in there to fix that hole.
Or that's our job. We just fix it ourselves in our heads,
There
our
you go.
minds.
That's what the brain's for. They
Right now, I'm
left
just
it. They
saying Huang's got some knowledge to where he's like, duh, if you use the wrong materials, it's not gonna be as strong.
exactly. That was they had to delete that scene. They
Yeah,
didn't want to feel like they were just spoon feeding us.
yeah, it's
Which Hu
reference.
Yang, by the way, is amazing. I love 1,000-year-old sassy droid. They're my favorite. Sassy droids are the best.
And I like even though he his moment of okay, I was a little wrong, where he's like
Mhm.
telling Ezra is like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, Kanan's apprentice. Got it. Makes total sense now.
Mhm.
Here you go. You need this
Yep.
piece. Unorthodox goofball, which is interesting because Balin had like the only saber ever built the way he built his saber, and like he
Yeah.
was able to identify it that way. So it's very interesting um, how sabers are built. Apparently, like it's
Mhm.
way deep into it.
Yeah, it's kind of that whole matter of how you build it, the way you build it, what do you focus on as you're building it? What is your big thing that you want? Are you about the grip? Are you about your pommel? Are you about your switch? What order do you put it in? So It's very rad. The Hu Yang level of of course I know this. That's how I identify you by your
Yep.
lightsaber because that's who you are. And it is great that Balin has one of what maybe three of the last sets of actual Jedi built
Mm.
temple built sabers.
Temple built sabers. Yeah, his be temple built. Luke's,
Yep.
Ahsoka's are. Well,
So one of Ahsoka's is
she lost. Well, now.
now.
Um. Well, but I don't know. Anakin, are those the same ones Anakin gave her from Clone Wars
they
season 7?
they
Four.
actually look like they were four I think. They look like they've been modded since,
Yeah.
so
Not
they're
sure.
probably not.
Yeah. And she doesn't have a big attachment to those anyways.
Yeah.
She's
So you
been
really only have Balin, Luke, Obi-Wan. It's about it. Because even Vader's, well, it was temple built, but post temple.
we'll give that one a pass. That one kind of counts.
There, he built it around the corpses, but I mean, it was in the temple.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would even count Palpatine's as like order Sith order built, right?
Yeah,
Palpatine, big deal. He liked his gold lightsaber.
that tiny little
Everything was
one. He's like,
precise.
well, when you need to put it in your purse or just have it up your sleeve, it's real nice and convenient to have it right here.
That's definitely Palpatine's like I'm home for the weekend voice with
Yeah.
his friends.
Oh, I no longer have to talk like this. Hey y'all, how you doing? All right, so I got this little feller. Look at this, ain't so cute. Doggone.
Got his little sun hat on. He's going out for a little tea time in the country, Naboo,
A little stroll in Naboo, got to go see them tick cows.
with some childhood friends that he did not murder, like his family.
All one of them.
Yep, his poor family. I really encourage everyone to go read Darth Plagueis or listen to that book. Favorite book, hands down. Love that
I'll have
book.
to check it out.
Oh, it's wild. It's basically it's Plagueis, but it's Palpatine's backstory.
Nice. That's
Dude comes
awesome.
from some dark places.
I
It's
believe
crazy.
it.
He's kind of what is it? You got Wolf of Wall Street.
Hmm.
When they're on the boat, and he's like, you got like this all on your own. All the rest of them, like they're sons of just rich people in the family, but you did this all on your own. Like became a little scumbag. That's kind of that's Shiv.
Hmm.
He uh he got there all on his dark side own, and it's very dark.
Yeah, that's the way
And
you do
it
it, man.
yeah, and like the word emancipated, when you become emancipated
Hmm.
as like a person or anything like that, that book puts like a new light on the idea of emancipation, like truly an emancipated being. That is Palpatine. It's intense.
Well, that's horrifying and
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes. Go listen to that book. It's really good.
Okay. That's
It's
definitely going to be
terrifying.
on there. As soon as I finish the High Republic series, I'm actually reading that right now.
I
Love
have
it.
not. There's like comics. There's books. There's a lot going on there
Yeah.
in the the written world when it comes
Hmm.
to those. Are you enjoying
Yeah.
it?
I'm loving it. So there's two in the comic books that I'm reading right now. It's the Old Republic and then the Old Republic, the Halcyon Legacy. And love them. Absolutely love them. I'm a huge fan of what they're doing and where they're taking the characters. And it also harkens back to just opening the doors that Knights of the Old Republic opened up and allowing for all these different stories to be told and all the back lot and the back life. And I've always enjoyed that aspect of it. I like the Ula Keldroma, was always my favorite story of any of the Jedi. The idea that someone could rise as fast as he did, fall in love, have a baby, turn to the dark side, wipe out his best friends, and then all of a sudden go, you know what? This was a bad idea. My bad. It gives a little more credence to the Vader story, and you can understand how Anakin could have turned, because if someone like Keldroma could turn forward and reverse, then it makes sense. It allows
Yeah.
for Darth Vader's story to be a really good redemption story.
Yeah. It is certainly like the successor to Old Republic. Like it has all
Yes.
the right tones and
Yes.
stories. Yeah.
Yes, they actually hit the right beats. They give you that world that's very lived in, and you're confident and comfortable going right into it and recognizing a few masters. Like, of course, Yaddle would be that old. Of
Yeah,
course, Yaddle's back there. Come on.
yeah, little threads.
Hmm.
Well, I guess I've seen Jedi Tales, like the kids show on
Oh
Disney.
man.
My son watches some
Okay.
episodes of that. Um, Yoda's in it. Nothing super contextual, but it's High Republic era, so
Hmm.
um, it counts, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the
Um,
Jedi Tales that came out because you get that Dooku line
yeah,
with Qui-Gon and that whole story. And I was a big
yeah,
fan of obviously the Ahsoka stuff. Um, I do want to touch on what this series did
yes,
fantastically well was they gave Hayden Christensen's Anakin the complete story. They filled in what I've wanted from the prequels and what I was hoping to get, and we didn't. I don't think any of us did. And we can say that was the quality of the acting, which a lot of people have complained about throughout the years. I was one of them. I think it was more the quality of directing. I think he
of
had
course.
poor direction,
He was
and
young.
he was young, and he played a decent character well. But he needed to play a legend perfect, and we all nailed him for not. And I think this series, specifically one episode, gave him everything. Obi-Wan helped elevate him a little more, kind of buoy that
Yeah,
up. It teed it up for Ahsoka to knock it out of the park. And I love the finale for her to say, for that moment to say he was a good master, because
yeah,
he was. Anakin
oh
didn't
yeah,
deserve to be used the way he was used the whole time. And it was unfortunate. It's sad to see how it all worked out for him. But this gave him that thread of, nah, he was a good guy who just got perverted and subverted and used. And it's unfortunate, but Hayden Christensen really came through strong in this.
so good.
So good, man. So good. Those lightsaber battles. Come on.
Yeah, and again with like the acting, like obviously Hayden, veteran of it, but like you can tell that like he's watched Clone Wars and like he knows the character and like he can shift through the tonnage of what that character should be in each era because he's played
Hmm.
him as Vader, right? In Obi-Wan,
Right.
like he's obviously played the young version of himself,
Hmm.
which I'm fine with. Like that's part of the issue is in terms of acting and like especially episode 2, um it's fine. I mean, he was like 17. He
Yeah.
started training when he was 11.
When I was 17, I was a kind of jackass like that who would make punk comments and give weird
Yeah,
attitude. Absolutely.
and
And
he
was
wasn't raised in the
terrible.
temple.
Exactly. He wasn't raised in the temple, and he's obviously no good at hitting on women or talking to them. So, of course, he would be uncomfortable and awkward and weird.
Yeah.
It all fits.
Yeah, and he's got this edge against Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan's
Hmm.
always riding his ass like anyone would ride a teenager for, don't lose your freaking lightsaber, dude. Like, come on,
Right.
the simple stuff. Like, it's
Yep.
easy for parents, Obi-Wan, to get like that.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't have an issue with that, and I never really have.
Hmm.
But once again, like as fans, we can compartmentalize it to where
Hmm.
this is why, and it's fine. It
Hmm.
doesn't need to be, I guess, for people who can't separate it and they have this like idealistic version of like it should be perfect.
It must be like this, otherwise it's nothing to me. And I
Yeah,
think, episode 3 did that. Episode 3 showed some really poor direction. Episode 2 just wasn't great. Like there was no chemistry between them. And
yeah,
I'm speaking specifically about Hayden Christensen here. He he did what he needed to do, but it made it weird in the movie. You know what I mean? It didn't quite
mm-hmm.
fit and kept breaking up the tone. Episode 3, he was really good, but once again, that story and them not having that relationship that you felt comfortable or confident with her in kind of never it just never translated to enough to become Vader. You know what I mean? Like out of
Yeah, yeah,
everything, it never quite hit the beats for me.
yeah,
But this in one episode, he goes through the entirety of who he was, and we see it. And it's all done through their fighting style and the makeup that they do when he turns to the Vader. And I'm like, oh man. And then he's got the melted eye Vader. And I'm like, oh no. And he's just brutal. And that
yeah,
great line with just oh, what is it? You lack conviction, and
yeah,
just hammer swings. And it's like, oh, that would be terrifying. That's what's under
yeah,
that visage. That's what's underneath there. That I don't know which one's scarier now.
Yeah, yeah, and and that's terrifying for Ahsoka. Like she's really kind of rolling through her demons on there. And now
Hmm.
I'm fairly certain, with no kind of like contextual evidence, that that was actually um, force projection, other than the end of Ahsoka
Yeah,
kind of cements that. Not necessarily. Was that a dream of Ahsoka's, or was that actually um, Anakin in the world between worlds?
yeah.
Like, were they? Yeah,
I'm thinking it's Anakin in the world between worlds. I
yeah,
think that is his way of connecting the same way that Obi-Wan was connecting with Qui-Gon at some point, that Obi-Wan and Yoda both connected with Luke. They've obviously shown that there's a way to get there and you can meditate there. And she, was on a near-death experience. So that's similar to a meditation, as some people have discussed, that you reach
yeah,
that level. So why wouldn't that be? And I love the idea of it being him, because it is still, hey, you still have more lessons. Like, I'm your master. I will always be here. He makes all those illusions and all those comments that definitely put you in that point of, oh, this is him. Like,
yeah.
this is
Right.
100% him. And at the end, him coming to terms with who he was and what he did, because he's already had to come to terms. If he didn't come to terms with who he was and what he did, he never would have projected into the force
Yep.
just by sheer power. It was because he overcame, because he turned and saw himself at the end. And obviously, he wants to still be there for Ahsoka, for as much responsibility as he feels for Luke. And that was enough to get him to turn back to the light side. He obviously still feels that for Ahsoka. And they touch on that from his perspective and giving that from her perspective to finally come around and say he was a good master. I mean, she
Yeah.
was on trial at one point and no one believed her. No one had her back except her master.
Yeah.
Even Plo Koon, who was
Yeah.
obviously the best of all the masters. I will die on this hill. he even kind of turned his back, but Anakin never did, and I think that was the great part. A
Plo,
great part that
Plo
they showed.
Koon very reluctantly turned his back, though. He did
Well,
not want
look,
to. He was
he
very
did.
sad about it.
He was, and he didn't even 100% agree with it, but he was part of what he had to do. Being a master and on the council, that was the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. The Jedi Order. That's like a whole.
Man,
That's a whole topic. Like,
full of hubris and failures all the way up and down, which it's like, it's so great that when they show you this, you feel like you want to root for them. But by episode 2, you're like, I don't know. It kind of
about
seemed
that.
like jerks.
Yeah. There's something wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You make a good point too. Like Anakin for sure doesn't deny. Vader denied the part of him that was Anakin.
Yep.
Anakin does not deny the part of him that was Vader.
Yep.
He accepts wholly that that was a part of him, part of his life, who he was, who he became. Ties back to the Mortis stuff, obviously. But and he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he projected out.
Yep. And he was able to come through with that. Because that happens, like you just brought up, on Mortis, with the dad and the son trying to sway him to the dark side, but also try to keep him to be the balance. But it's so easy to be swayed. And
Yeah,
then we get Balin standing on the finger of Daddy Mortis, the one of the ones. And it's really neat that, did you notice that the girl, the daughter, because there's 3 statues and the daughter is crumbled.
mm,
And the daughter is supposed to be the physical representation of the light side.
right.
So it's this idea that maybe the light side really has crumbled from the very core.
Yeah, or it did a long time ago.
Hmm.
Either that. I would kind of see that more as a projection of what happened in that galaxy,
Yeah.
um,
No,
versus
yeah.
like a reaction to what has happened elsewhere.
That's true.
Um,
That's a very good point. So maybe Balin is being pulled towards the Temple of Mortis. Maybe there, who knows what we don't have. I'm so excited to find
yeah,
out.
I know. Yeah, that's gonna be so cool.
Mhm.
To, especially to like bring that into live action, but actually then make it a physical place in this distant galaxy
Yeah.
world. I don't quite understand if it like not like does it all originate from there? We know the death, the Night Sisters come
Hmm.
from this place, but they
Yep.
really hold Dathomir dear to them, even these Night Sisters.
Well, because Dathomir was a place where a lot of their people were born, not just the Order. Whereas this
Mhm.
place is where the Order was born. Same with the Jedi. Nobody knows of these. They've turned into fairy tales for the
Mhm.
Night Sisters as well. These are the stories you tell beginning at the beginning. And probably where at one time the Jedi and Night Sisters fought alongside each other, maybe worked together, maybe we're just existing there until one day they didn't. And there's a lot of cool backstory to be had there
Yeah.
because in our galaxy, the known galaxy, um, they don't. They had a war, like a very clear war. And then they also had different sides taking between the Empire and the Republic. So we get to see a lot of that. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that combination of, once again, we have very few Night Sisters, which means there's very strong power. There's very powerful users.
Yeah.
Same with the Force users. The few that are attuned and able to function within this world are like the super users now. I
Yeah.
mean, Yoda's 1,000 times more powerful than he was when there was an entire council and a school of thousands of Jedi. So
Yeah.
it's kind of neat to almost get this wild magic perspective side of it. So it'll be cool to see what the sisters are running from or in such a hurry to leave. The Night Mothers, because I mean, the Night Mothers are there at the source of their power. Dathomir is just a great place where they feel very in touch with their power, but this is like home base
Yeah.
and they want to get away. So why? It's neat.
Yeah. It is cool. And then we have Warlord Shin, which will
Mm.
be interesting.
Oh,
Rogate. I'm just gonna be a warlord over these marauders. These
why
kind of
not?
these cool like nomad samurai type warriors.
Hmm.
But I forget who they remind me of, like in universe. Or they remind me of a different species in universe.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like not the dog. It's what the pirate was. They remind me like under their armor would be like what the race that the
Right.
pirate in Clone Wars is.
Okay. Okay. I got you. Yeah. Not the jowl dog. I know it's just, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're like really wrinkled looking,
Hmm.
whoever they are. But yeah, back to your other comment. Lightsaber battles are just nonstop. Just all of them were perfect, and there were so many of them. And it's just, I like that we've had tons of shows where it's like, let's not do lightsabers. And then now here's a show where it's like, yes, everything's a lightsaber, and they're all going to be these awesome fights.
Hmm.
Balin has this very stoic samurai, mo- also knight, very kind of medieval knight stance to him, or like late
Hmm.
medieval. Big swings, very powerful figure, and then the aggression on Ahsoka. Like she just fights. She doesn't fight like a Jedi. She
Nope.
fights the way Anakin trained her, and
Hmm.
be a survivor and
To be a
win
warrior.
duels.
Yeah. Yep. And she is fantastic at that because at one point, I mean, when she's down to one lightsaber, that was what she was trained with. That's what she knew.
Yeah,
So that's home for her. And you get to see that, especially in the fight with Anakin when she's down to one saber. They're using each other's styles and she's trying to emulate what Anakin does, but Anakin's just a little bit better. He's just a little bit better the whole way through. And then so when she's down to one saber, she goes back and does some Anakin moves and she's a little bit better now. Balin, we get to see him with that fighting style that's very similar to Anakin, what we saw during the High Republic era. That was what was trained and how you did it. And kind of what we got Vader to do is eventually, because Vader, obviously being mostly machine, he's limited by his movement and still really effective to just swing with all your might.
yeah,
It
yeah. And the Clone Wars didn't help this at all. And I mean, the Order just was. The Order was more focused on passive and deterrence and just winding conflict down.
Hmm.
So like a lot of the lightsaber forms did not lend themselves to one-on-one combat, or
Right.
dueling. And obviously the Clone Wars, and Anakin makes that point in that episode. That was a Tales, I think, right, where
Yeah.
she's training in the circle from all the
Yep.
clones. Um, she has basically an adapted form of these forms where she
Yeah.
uses them a little differently.
Exactly. Yep. And she does that in a big way, especially when we see her bust out her version of Form 7, which
Yeah,
is the one that's, connects you with your emotions. And we see her use that again. And it's like, all right, now she's showing it. She's actually showing it in her face because that had to progress throughout the series as well. She
Yeah.
had done that where she wasn't really doing it. She was kind of going back to that Form 3 Obi-Wan kind of style where it's just smooth and deflecting and just flippity dip dip. So when
Yep.
she gets back into showing that expression, I think against Marok, she kind of shows it when she goes back down to one and just single slices them with the duel. It's amazing. So good. And the subtlety and the skill they used in all of this for Filoni to bring out such a wonderful samurai dual swords fights, yeah, that style. It's like watching Kurosawa again. We get to see that moment of this standoff and, build the anticipation and then have this awesome epic, 5 minute sword slinging, and all of a sudden it's done in a
Yeah.
swipe. And it's so great.
Yeah. And yeah, that's like you said about Anakin, like he's just simply better at the same forms. And like versus Marok, like Ahsoka, hands down, will always be just better than
Hmm.
every other every other saber wielder, right? Like
Yeah.
she's on par with Balin, but he's an order raised one. Um,
Hmm.
she probably can like somewhat best Luke, depending. I would like to. It'd be interesting how they would go back and forth because Luke's an interesting subject as well because he is
Hmm.
by far not order trained, but emulates the order, emulates the same teachings, but
Hmm.
whatever that term was that they threw in this series for
Boken.
our our Oaken, is it Oaken?
Yeah,
You said
Boken, Boken
Boken,
B.
yeah, our Boken
So
Jedi,
the Boken were the training swords that you would
yeah,
use, the wooden training swords. So a Boken Jedi is like a training dummy to him.
yeah,
These Jedi, these wild Jedi, the ones raised in captivity, they're are raised in the wild. They're not
yeah,
the same. They're not the way that he was brought up.
yeah,
And he truly believes in the order, but not what happened to the order,
yeah. The
which I
idea
love
of it,
that.
very
Yeah,
well
the
done.
idea of it. Oh, what a great
Meme
line.
that
Every
forever.
line. The fact that he has those one-liners,
Yeah,
that that sort of back and forth he has with Ahsoka as they're, kind of circling each other and sizing each other up was fantastic.
yeah. And again, like George is always so in tune with like you know issues of the world or like
Hmm.
tropes and themes that happen in the real world, and that dialogue from Balin, obviously then from Dave. Um, that just hits home so much, probably for so many people. Is like I miss the idea of it, the
Hmm.
order, right? You can connect that to whatever you want to, but it connects to so many things for so many people. Is like it's this thing that you can't quite grasp. Um,
Hmm.
that's the part you love about it. What it is, what it became, and the problems with it. No thanks. But
Yeah.
there's that underlying essence of these things that we still hold dear, and he holds it very dear.
Hmm. And wonderfully so, because I mean, that's what he was raised with. He
Yeah,
was a youngling taken and raised the way the Jedi did. And it was flawed, but he was able to see it as that was his life. I mean, Anakin, at the point he knew him, was this taller than life, greater, huge stories. Everyone, spoke so highly of him, and he got to fight alongside at one point and be like, "Yo, that's Anakin right there. I see him. How cool is that?" You know, Probably said like 5 words to each other in passing, but he's like, "Oh man, that guy. He's
he
he's
gets
got it
it.
together." I bet you he won't wipe out the younglings.
And if he does, there's probably a reason why.
And
That's
that's
where
the thing with
Balin would.
Balin is he was willing to believe in that reason beyond. And I think
Yeah,
they show that really well. And I'm excited for Shin. I want to see Shin the Warlord. I want to see what she's got. She's now going to be their new retainer, man. It's going to be awesome.
yeah.
So very exciting for that. And also, is she going to turn against Balin, or what does she want? Kind of hopefully get to see her side of things.
I feel like, and honestly, because they use all the Lord of the Rings imagery right there, but like I feel like Balin's going to be very disconnected, whatever his journey is, and it'll
Hmm.
connect on the back end to
Yeah.
probably the Shin, the more directly in touch Shin, Ahsoka, Sabine situation, which is
Hmm.
probably going to be the active um story, and then Balin, I could see some really cool things happening with Balin, but almost alone, right? He like a
Hmm.
separate quest. Just like when we would pan to Sam and Frodo, like they were very disconnected from everything else that was going on, but it
Yeah.
connects back in the end.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to play out. I think that makes the most sense. And plus, Balin is disconnected right now. He doesn't care. He's not
Yeah,
looking for whatever everyone else is. He's beyond all of these earthly things. I mean, that was him saying goodbye to Shin. You could tell he was already gone. He had almost like breathed a sigh of relief. Like, now I can focus on what I've been trying to focus on for all these years.
yeah,
So, which, what a crappy thing, right? It's almost like when the kid turns 18 and you're like, oh, thank God. Finally. I've been wanting to be a nudist all this time, and I
oh
can just
god,
go do it with
yeah.
this giant pointy finger statue guy.
Goodbye.
Later.
The statue is pointing toward the beach.
And that's where I'll be.
Retire. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
God, now I really want there to be a beach.
No, there's definitely like a volcano emitting light of some sort. There's
Yeah.
a mountain emitting a beam of tempting light to go toward. Maybe it's the last vestige of light side, and that's what's calling him.
It could be. It could be there's something deep down ingrained within him that he's trying to get over to. It could be the first tome of
Yeah,
power that was ever written and recorded.
yeah.
And that it somehow has some mysterious way to, like, if anybody in 1,000 years goes, didn't they figure out 1,000 years ago how to like burn the ozone layer during that Manhattan project? To be like, yes,
Yes,
yes, it
yes.
was not great.
Concrete, is that a thing? Yes, it
Yeah.
was. Lost and recovered. Thank goodness.
Pages burned. Woohoo.
That's what Palpatine did most of the time. He was just trying to find all the old secrets.
Yep. And that's really what most of them do, is trying to go into sort of figuring out what was it, the point of it. And that's why you go after Peridia, because he saw Palpatine succeed doing that and pursuing that knowledge. So why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe doing it in his mind, obviously, as all anti-heroes or heroes do. Well, I'm going to be different, and I'm going to go do it in a different way, and it'll be way better. Seldom is.
No Death Stars for me. Um,
Well, that's the
um,
other thing too, is Balin now has experienced that. He's got to see the failures of the Empire. So much
yeah.
like Thrawn did, now he has too. So he gets to go, and perhaps he's seen all the enough failings of the Jedi Order that he wants to try to either bring it the correct way, or what he thinks is the correct way, or he's just trying to end it all and blow it up like some sort of weird, like, just got to break the cycle.
Yeah. And that's and like Thrawn. So like he's coming. He just rolls back into the galaxy with like this 10 years of just like thought on like what went wrong and what do we not do again. And the biggest thing, which is sad, did not carry over to the First Order from him, is like we do not underestimate our heroes, and
Right?
they do. That's all they do. It's nothing
All
but
they do.
hero underestimation. So poor Thrawn. We know how it ends. He does not make it that far. Neither does his teachings, unfortunately. But
Mm.
they'll go somewhere. Excited to see Dathomir again, though. That was just a cool shot. Them rolling up on Dathomir in the old Star Destroyer.
Yeah, and that Chimera coming up there in that nice red planet.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying planet.
Why doesn't Palpatine like reach out? Be like, hey Thrawn boy, I see you're back in town. Come over to Exegol. Let's have a party.
Seriously, why wouldn't you? I mean, unless he does, and we don't know, and then he just murders Thrawn. He shows back up and he's like, hey, what plans did you have? Great. Lightning. Good. Thank you. That is what I needed. Good.
Oh, good.
Good.
Ezra, fantastic young lad there.
Oh my gosh. The actor who plays Ezra crushed it.
Crushed it.
Absolutely crushed it. Man, the eyes are the only thing that threw me off, because those contact lenses were huge and it took me a minute to get used
Oh,
to his eyes. Like, just
yeah.
just physically staring at
Paris
his eyes, I
too.
was like, yeah, they looked uncomfortable. They're real
Yeah.
big. but awesome.
Cartoony.
Yeah, very cartoony. But Ezra was perfect. I mean, the guy who plays him, he just studied Ezra Bridger and was like, I can do that, and nailed it,
Does it? I was
dude.
like, holy crap, it's Ezra.
We get Terrace Cassie. He's out there for 10 years on his own, and he's like, oh yeah, I think Kanan gave me a lesson on this once. It's like a martial art. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Holy cow. It's awesome.
Yeah. I had more issue with like Sabine's acting in
Mm.
those interactions. But then again, like I was trying to think, I was like, well, in Rebels, like they always had an awkward kind of like punch bag kind
Yeah,
of relationship too.
right.
But
Because
he did outshine her for sure. Like he was a way better Ezra than she is a Sabine.
100%. I think her Sabine was wrought with a little more
She kind of has a
emo than I wanted. And Sabine is emo.
she
That's
kind of has a
kind of her
Hayden
thing.
effect. Like
Yeah.
episode 2 Hayden. That's like kind of what she has going on. Like she
Yep.
just doesn't is not making that connection quite there.
And I feel
It
like, sorry, go ahead. I want to hear
I was
yours
gonna say
first.
it's fine until like Ezra shows up, really,
Yeah.
or
Yep.
Ahsoka, whatever. So
It made sense that she has that friction with Ahsoka. The only person she's
right,
really connected with is Hera. And that was good. Those
yeah,
interactions and scenes played. Her pushback with Ahsoka was like, okay, like I get it, but you're supposed to be 26 and you're acting like you're 18. I'm a little annoyed by that. Like, don't act like you haven't existed and lived through all of this hardship and that someone owes you something or what's your disconnected because you
yeah,
don't want to get close to someone again. I don't get it. And then obviously you find out Ahsoka left her. So, okay, I see that too. Yep. I get that. You're going to be a little pushback there. But when she meets Ezra, it's like, hmm, okay, I'm still not feeling it. There was always something slightly lacking. It kind of
right,
plays, being that she is the character of Sabine Wren who has been through that much trauma. That when you've gone through all that level of trauma, and we know thanks to Obi-Wan that they really like to focus our new Star Wars on what trauma does to you.
right.
Um, we get that through Sabine. I think we get that pretty well. Actually, feeling that from her, that her family was wiped out. She can't be close to anyone. Ezra was gone for 9 to 10 years. He didn't exist. Ahsoka was gone for at least 4 of that, if not more. She dropped her too. So Hera was off being a general. She's still a commander in the army, but what is she really doing?
She resented her for the whole like, we're not gonna come help with the fleet thing. She's like, what?
Yeah.
Bull crap.
Yeah.
Rules?
Rules. We're rebels. When do we follow
Rebels.
rules? Like, what are you doing?
Perma rebels. Like, and once you're a rebel, I don't think you can undo that.
Nah. And I think that's the beauty of Chopper. We,
Yeah,
we get Chopper being the perma. He's the only character who gets to remain exactly the same.
yeah, yeah. I saw there was something where it was like, we had like 4 chances for Chopper to commit like a war crime and didn't manage not to commit a war crime. So good on him. War crime Chopper.
Because
But
I'm
he
always
wanted
waiting,
to.
man. He's good at it. I mean, honestly.
Tell me
And
when.
he's always grumpy. He's an angry little droid who's constantly pissed because people are moving his stuff. It's these damn kids.
Yeah,
He gets to be the grumpy old man. It's wonderful.
yeah. Where's R2? R2 is like, he doesn't do war crimes. R2's too
Nah. R2's a
pure.
hero.
Yeah,
He
he's
is a
straight up
hero.
hero droid.
Yeah, he is lawful good, man. He
Yeah,
cannot be aligned otherwise. Like
yeah,
chaotic good, maybe, because
right.
he's willing to push limits a little bit, but he's never pushing the limits towards I'm going to murder a society because we got to get out of here. It's
Yeah,
more of the we're probably gonna have to shoot this guy. Sorry.
but Chopper's kind of like a good, embodiment of like what Andor is, right? It's that
Hmm.
rebel time. Like they had to do some dirty stuff,
Yeah.
fighting that dirty empire.
And Chopper was not afraid to because he didn't have emotions holding him back. He was just like,
Nope.
nah, we can just kill them all. Why?
Yeah.
What's the
Why
matter?
not? It's not in the to do list today to not kill people.
When he breaks a dam for crying out loud at, in Rebels, it's
Yeah.
like you just wiped out a town, buddy. Just come on, Chop. What do you? And then he's
I don't want to talk about it. I have to go
is
organize
great.
my stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go put my things away and then deal with it. I'll go babysit Jason for you. Which, okay, having this Jason character, Hera's son, Hera and Kanan's son, I think they're backdooring Jason Solo through a Jason character.
Mm,
That's where I see them going with him. I'm very excited for that. And I
yeah.
really hope they pursue that because that would be lining up with around the time that Kylo Ren destroys the temple. Because after
Hmm.
Ben gets attacked and then freaks out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some pretty cool stuff that could happen there. And I would love a Jason Solo because he was one of the coolest to turn to the dark side.
I was really happy his episode where he was listening to the waves that all played out the way it did,
Hmm.
because that was really borderline, like this can be bad, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. He
Yep.
it actually kind of showed, even with like Huang backing it up a little bit, like he
Hmm.
has some latent abilities to like listen and like be in tune with the force.
Hmm.
So I was really happy like he wasn't just like pandering to the waves, like, oh, there's something out there, like, duh, yes, we know as the viewers there's something out there, but like the way he could hear the lightsabers, like that was cool. Like,
That was
i got
really neat.
i got you, kid, you legit heard something, thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. And that's the beauty of it is they say that. And then it's her listening and even Chopper reacting like, what? like, like they give just that little bit in there of like, you got
Perfect.
Jason like, Ma, check it out. Like you can't hear the lightsabers. And then it's like a little like, what the hell? Are you drunk again, kid? I told you I only have a little bit. You can't have all of it.
Don't drink those fluids.
Dude, crazy drunk Uncle Chopper is my favorite now. That's
Yeah,
the new canon.
drunk Uncle Chopper.
Like what? Why would you let him watch your kid?
No, right? Just
Seems like
rolling around the Calmarian cruiser, just randomly.
all kinds of
take
trouble.
take your son and your murderous droid to work day. Nothing can go wrong.
No, of course not. Especially the murderous droid who loves to steal everything and
So
pilfers from everywhere.
even less reason for Hera to be surprised that she's trying to get court-martialed, because I'm sure outside of like the blatantly obvious reason to court-martial her, there's probably a lot of reasons other people have to be like, we should probably court-martial her. Like, she
And
doesn't let us
disassemble that
decommit.
droid.
She will not decommission that droid.
We need to get that thing broken down because we at least a memory wipe something. This thing is
Something.
it's a terrifying monster. But of course, when you have R2 and C3PO coming over and defending Chopper, they're like, okay, I guess we can't do anything if the heroes of the Republic don't want it.
The sub cult of droid hierarchy.
Which is probably led by the ringleader, Princess Leia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these are my droids. Don't touch them.
exactly. She's got a soft
My
spot for
droids have
HKs.
droids. Don't touch them.
Yeah. Her droids have droids, all right? Well,
Yeah,
actually, Chopper has a human. Maybe a
yeah.
young Jedi.
That's his backup. He's like, I'm in charge of a human half the day. Like, I'm fine.
What are you guys complaining about? What are
What
you
are you
doing?
What are you doing all day? You're not watching this 7-year-old.
Oh, hot
It's not
oil
easy.
baths sound hard.
Um, yeah, Ezra's great, but there's this thing about Ezra is, what's his deal? He was a little too okay with ditching them, almost like relieved they were down there fighting. Like, I get he's trying to get back, but almost very much kind of the sense that he shows back up and he's like, "Hey, I'm here. Everyone else, meh, didn't make it."
Eh. So I kind of like that because it plays the idea that maybe he can get the coordinates, knows how to get there. At least they have, at least they have enough knowledge that the guy with the most knowledge of the place they're going to be stuck at should go and get in contact with the people who could still get back to save them and rescue them.
Sure.
So I think that part made sense. But you're right. When he first shows up and he puts his hand on Chopper, and then he sees Hera when he takes his helmet off, and her reaction too, she's like, "Oh, it's so great to see you. You were like my little brother. Where are the other three creatures that went with you that we need? Where's my Sabine? Where's my Ahsoka? And where's my Hu Yang? Don't worry
They
about
were
him.
very important characters. I'm glad you're back, but yeah, no, yeah, because like anything nefarious going on with him, I don't know. Is he good still? Because he's always had a little bit of a dark side tap.
True. True, but I
Maybe,
think wherever he and who knows what happened to him with where he was too. If he
yeah,
was next to this power that was calling Balin, did he somehow become okay with all of that? Did he become in tune with it? Did it make him
yeah,
stronger, but he doesn't realize he's in the dark side now? Like it's so many questions, so many options.
yeah. There's something a little unsettling about him.
Hmm.
Um, he's just almost a little bit too okay with everything,
Hmm.
kind of. Um, and like his he didn't give Sabine a hard time, like
Yeah,
maybe normal Ezra would, because Ezra is always a person that had questions and wanted answers.
always.
So so it's a little bit jarring that we have this very I have answers, but I'm not gonna discuss any of them.
I'm gonna say that is a throwback that actually parallels exactly what Obi-Wan and Luke did. We're actually seeing now with Ezra and Kanan, because they've probably had time to commence, speak to each other through the Force.
Hmm.
So what we
What
get in
Kanan gets
Luke,
to be a Force ghost now?
well, he's a ghost wolf,
Oh,
so
that's right.
so he's there. He just they communicate differently. He gives them
Yeah, yeah.
treats, and then he has to show them things. He has a big letter
Follow me.
board. It's like a
Follow.
Ouija board, but different. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the way Luke is in 5. Luke is full of question or yeah, episode 5, full of question, constantly trying to figure out what, why, when, how, where. Yet in 6, he comes striding in nonchalant. I've got the answers. I'm cool. It's kind of what we see with Kanan when, once as Ezra progressively gets older, Kanan calms down a little bit. Because in season 1, Kanan's a jerk to the kid. He's just got no patience for him. He's got no
Hmm.
time. It's wonderful. It's not until he gets blinded that he's like, oh, trust in the Force, kid. It's fine.
It works for me. It'll work for you.
Exactly. So I think Ezra has achieved that after 10 years of being stranded. Like, it's fine. It'll work out.
Yeah, and I guess and Luke also had that dark side vibe too about
Hmm.
him in episode 6. So yeah, that's a good point. Very much Ezra has this episode 6 Luke thing going on.
Hmm.
Um,
Which he could still be bad. There's
it
still the
could still
option for
not be
him to,
good.
he could be on a razor's edge and just
Yeah,
like anything could just breathe to the other side. And he's like, you know what? I'll just wipe this ship out.
yeah.
Never
I mean,
know.
he's just a little too happy. Like everything's just kind of playing out a certain way.
Hmm.
That's all. There's just something suspicious about him
It
in
would be
whatever
fun if all of
way.
a sudden I've been doing nothing but trying to connect Snoke in all of this. I've been trying to find Snoke's way in. Like, is Snoke like a really bad copy of Ezra and Thrawn maybe together? Who
Whoa.
knows, right? So there's all
Hmm.
kinds of weird, fun stuff like that where, like, because we know the technology's out there, we know many cloners have kept trying. So where would Snoke come from? I mean, we saw him in episode 9 being in the tube somewhere. So we know he was a puppet of the Emperor, but to what end? How? Where?
Yeah. And those tubes have, they now go all the way back to the Bad Batch,
Hmm.
looking through the tube history, and then Mando, obviously in season 2, finding the tubes. So yeah, we don't know if like Snoke just is just kind of like the best version of the cloned whatever like they were trying to do,
Hmm.
um, or yeah, is it something more there? So yeah, that's something good to look out for because yeah, they're constantly trying to reinforce the new trilogy,
Yep.
which is good.
I mean,
It's
it's a
good.
good marriage, and I think this show did it very well. I think it continues to build on the best parts of the animated series that we love and enjoy, but it actually continues to inform and build in this new world in the greater universe and allows us to see these really awesome saber duels that I just thought were bar none phenomenal. I mean, the
Oh yeah.
Morgan Elsbeth fight scenes were so good. So good. That finale fight scene was wonderful, especially the climactic ending. Oh, What a great way to end that fight. What a perfect way to end that fight.
Yeah, that was so good. They were not happy. He was like, let's blow up the temple. Even though
No.
they're leaving, but he was not happy about they weren't happy about that. They're like, ugh,
Yeah,
we're
the Night
signing up for
Sisters
this
are
guy
like,
again.
you know how old that is? But once again, that's the beauty of Thrawn. Anything for victory.
He's like, he's like, I totally get you. I have a taste for art myself, but tactically, it is no longer useful to us.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yep.
anything, it could be used against us.
Precisely. That could be called out and someone could try to reach out through that. I mean, because it's that same star map setup, so they're obviously connected
Yeah,
somehow. You just knock it out.
yeah. Those darn Purrgil, they're crazy.
Ah, I love those space whales.
I like that they just booked it too. When they
Mm-hmm.
were like, minefield, out of here.
Yeah.
Tactical,
They're gone. They were the smartest characters in the entire series. They're like, oh, trouble. We'll go
trouble. We'll go.
later.
We'll come back to die here later.
Yeah, exactly. This is our death field anyway. So just give us a couple years. We'll be back around.
Yeah, but this was not scheduled. Anyways, so we're leaving. Also, cool scene, like flying through the the whale graveyard. I suppose
Mm-hmm.
that was cool.
That was
Um,
really cool.
but those fighters are very ineffective against anything. At least that ship. Um,
Yeah, those
they
weird
need big. They
fighters,
need
man.
stronger pew pews. You know, that's all.
Those pew pews were weak as all get out. They might have had like, might have just what, 20 caliber machine guns? Pop,
Yeah,
pop,
and
pop, pop.
whichever episode was it, Hu Ang was out flying them for like 30 minutes while everyone
Yeah.
was like busy. He
Yep.
just like would show back up and be like, "Oh, they're still chasing me. Don't worry about it.
Episode 7. Up, nope, not done yet. Do, do, do.
Shields on max. We're just up here.
Those deflector shields.
So handy.
They are
Green
indeed.
lasers. They're weak.
Yeah. It was a really fun scope that
Yeah.
Filoni gave us that I think he continues to do really well. I think Favreau's done it. Everything about these new series really give you the size,
Yeah.
give you the grandeur of it. And I feel like you and I actually brought this up the last time I was on, discussing in the Corellian shipyards, just seeing that
Yes.
scope, the size of everything, this mass. We get it from being on the planet Coruscant and seeing, trying to picture what an entire planet of a city is like, how many layers deep and how large it is. And the movies try to do that. And I think once again, Filoni has done it better.
And a really good shot too. That probably, I mean, it's really brief, but when Thrawn's ship is hooked up to the ring and it's
Mhm.
like booking it out of the planet, and they get that
Mhm.
for like it's moving quickly. I thought that was just a really nice, clean shot. Like you don't
Mhm.
often usually the scale of it because we're so dialed into like um, slow moving space battles, and we're really focused on like fighters. But like
Mhm.
showing like a Star Destroyer like booking it, like I just thought that was like a really good perspective.
Yeah, it was great because then you see this little Jedi shuttle, which you've come to understand is not really little, but it's Millennium Falcon size, a little smaller, slightly smaller than that.
Yeah,
And it just trying to, you would think smaller ship, it's probably faster, more maneuverable, but the way you see that thing hauling once it's linked into the ring and it's just going, it's like, wow. Oh yeah, you can't catch it. That's it. It's
Thrawn's just giving
awesome.
this little bit of dialogue. He's like, "Sorry, you've lost this one," and he's like, "We're leaving. Let's go." And
Hmm.
like we're not dilly dallying like most
Nope.
people would. We're like, "Yeah, we're in a Star Destroyer. We're fine." No, you're not. Um, yeah, really good. Everything contextually was just so great because he was like, "We're getting out of here," and they
Hmm.
certainly did get out. There was no, "Oh, but we're gonna catch them and attach to the back and
Nope.
save the
There was
day."
none of
No,
that.
no, no.
Nope. And I
And
love
Ezra,
that Thrawn just saying, nah, we're not doing that anymore. Like he
yeah.
makes that statement of like, no, everyone's doubted him. We're not doing that. We're out.
And again, stowaway Ezra, just like, I'll be here for the ride, take a shuttle, and I'm out. I'm not at all going to interfere with this situation.
Nope. Not.
Suspicious.
See, I could see that being a little sus, but I feel like at least against Thrawn when he beat him the
Yeah.
last time, he had surprise, the element of surprise, and he was able to use it. This time, Thrawn's the guy who will never make the same mistake twice. So you have to come up with something new. So the fact that Ezra was just home would be enough.
Yeah. Very
But
true.
losing Ahsoka and Sabine is a big shot. That's hurtful.
Yeah, so you're right. Either he has a really good idea on how to get back to them, or he doesn't care.
Or secretly, it was his whole plan the whole time.
Yeah.
So now they're all stranded, and he gets to be the greatest Jedi,
Mm. He's
right?
like, now he's have to deal with that Luke somehow.
Oh, those wacky Skywalkers.
Can't touch them. I just want to be the best B tier lights Jedi.
Man, I'd say they should all. Every Jedi should have been Jolie Bindo. Just go off to a planet, hang out, be cool with all the people of the planet, work to save and protect the planet, but don't interrupt with anybody. And if someone comes and interrupt with you, just be as mean as possible.
Yeah. Grumpy. I mean, I think that's what Mando's trying to do. He's trying to just like kick back on his little ranch. Don't touch
He
my
wants
baby.
to. Dude, he needs to go back to that farm, that Kelto farm, where he was hanging out with that one chick, where he almost took his helmet off for her to be like, I could stay here and live. Why not?
Yeah. That place
Be
was
great.
cut. No one's gonna find you there.
And you got spatchka for days.
Yeah. So he settles up on like, it wasn't desert. It was it outside of that town?
Oh,
Or car
Grief
what is
Cargo.
his name?
Yeah.
Was it outside of there? Yeah.
It was, yeah. I
Not
said
very-
Anchorhead? No.
No.
Somewhere like that. It's one of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. We'll see where he pops up next.
It'll be interesting. It always is. I'm excited to see where they're going with that. So we still have Mando 4. We've got Andor 2.
Andor 2,
The Acolyte.
4, The Acolyte, yes.
Yeah, it's coming
Was
out
there
too.
a teaser out for that, like a minute long, or was I fever?
So the only thing I've actually seen for it is just like the showing of it and like a few planes flying by. That was it. It was, and it honestly, it looked like they just repurposed the one that was supposed to be for the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie, which I'm still very saddened by. That's probably the one that I want more than anything, because X-Wing versus TIE Fighter was my all-time favorite game growing up. That was the jam. So I am all
Squadrons,
about. Yes.
I mean, just I got it. I thought I could play it on the Steam Deck, but I couldn't get it to work, even though it's verified. But I was like, I still want to play it, so I sat on my computer, played like the intro and all that, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like they tell me there's these buttons that I see in the movies like do things like this is what they do. I'm like, this is so exciting.
It was awesome.
Like not a great game, but not like it executes what I want to do. I want to sit in a TIE Fighter and or X-Wing and push the buttons that are in there and fly.
That's all I want. I'm a simple man. I just need that. I get to go blow up the other enemy, shift my shields front and back, like all the things. All the things. It's perfect. That's all I need. And as you would think, the dogfights last about 2 minutes. And then I'm either dead or, well, I run into things a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think I can fly fast in those A-wings? Not work. They're really good at like this, but then you try to turn and it's...
Yeah, it's weird. They don't have enough wings to turn properly.
Strange how that works.
Yeah, I know. TIE fighters and X-wings, like you just feel it like moving through space. A-wings, like you just kind of feel like a barrel. And you're like, how do I move around?
At any point, you're just like, if I lose an engine here, I'm going to go really far spinning. Corkscrew.
That's one of my favorite things in like episode 7 is when Poe's is like, oh man, this thing cranks. I've always wanted to fly one of these. It's like, yes, a TIE fighter or a X-wing pilot would want to experience, like, because when are they going to get to like demo pilot a TIE fighter just on the whim?
Not frequently, unless they started. Like, that's the other thing. Unless you were starting, like Poe Dameron especially, you're right, with those first order ones, way cooler. As opposed to Wedge Antilles, who was like, oh, it's a tin can with some guns? Cool. They have shields. I'm going to go with those.
Yeah. They have shields, a rear gunner position, 2-seater, so I have a buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Way more beefed up, but yeah.
Way more.
This thing cranks. Whoa. Finn's like, this sucks, dude. I'm trying to get out of here.
right? And he's just like, this is the coolest.
You made my day.
Oh, I
I'm all
do
of a
love
sudden
that.
happy I got captured by the First Order. This day turned out okay. Kylo Ren guy touched
Oh,
my brain though. I didn't like it.
yeah, it felt weird.
I think
Oh
that's
man,
everything. What a good. It was a good series. Very good. Is there a
it
season
was,
two?
man.
Is there not? What do you think?
So I don't think there's going to be a season two because I think whatever they're going to do, they're going to break off into a couple of different things. And I think the movies are really where Filoni's going to throw his focus at now. So I don't think there should be a season two. I don't think there
Right.
needs to be. I would rather have. Are we going to find like Balin Skull? Where's his series? You know, are
Mm-hmm.
we going to have the Shin Hati series? Um, Maybe now we follow Ezra and we call it Phoenix Squadron, and
Right.
we get a whole Phoenix Squadron story where
Zeb.
Ahsoka, yeah, Ahsoka doesn't really come in anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe we just have Sabine pop in once in a while to be the connection there, and we focus more on them in the movies. So either way, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if greenlighting an Ahsoka season two is good, and if you have the opportunity to get three movies out of the deal, you know,
Right. Yeah.
I
Three.
don't
I
know
would
which
prefer three
direction you go.
movies.
Yeah, same. I
Are we
feel like
that
the
close to a
movies,
movie though?
2 years.
Okay. Eh.
Yeah, I
That's
know,
bearable.
but it's still so long. It's so
Yeah.
long, especially with this much. With it to leave this entire series open like that just hurts.
Yeah, but we'll get touchbacks in Mando. We'll
Hmm.
get we'll probably see Hera right in
Yeah,
Mandalorian,
yeah,
more
yeah.
Zeb stuff like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I mean sometimes the time between the series seasons for the like Andor is gonna have like 2 years between its seasons,
Yep.
so 2 years for a movie can't be mad at that. Especially if
Nah.
they're like, there's gonna be two more.
And then I'm really excited. Like they were trying to currently pitch the a couple things I've read where they're really pushing the Ray series because they want not just a single movie, but they want to do a whole series for her because they feel 15 years from now, rebuilding the order, it's untouched area. We get to
Mm-hmm.
actually dig into that, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
But this part of the story, I need my Ahsoka wrap up. I don't, as much as I love the Phoenix Squadron and all the characters, Ahsoka's who I need to get a full story from. I need her complete tale. Kind of, we got Anakin's complete tale. I need Ahsoka's complete tale.
yep. I don't know if Dave's ready for that yet. It's his character.
It's his baby. He would have
Yeah,
to let her go. That could be hard.
I don't think he can do it.
I would not doubt that we have Ahsoka Tano in the universe for another 20 years,
Yeah, in some form. Lots
one
of
way or
world
the other.
between worlds going on.
Hmm.
That's just a whole series on its own.
With it's just people being annoyed with all the other dead ghosts. Like, come on, you made it, Kiadi
Well, it's a
Mundi.
sitcom.
You were a jerk.
Yeah, it's a sitcom.
Kiadi Mundi is like the Michael character in wow, what was it in Seinfeld who would come in? Jerry,
Oh
the
yeah.
Kramer. He's the Kramer. You have Yaddle as Elaine. Just
Oh
weird
dear.
dancing.
Uh, well, with that Seinfeld reference, I think that's all we have for tonight. Great chatting with you as always. Appreciate it, Casey. Always a good time.
Pleasure was all mine, Nick. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great time when we get the opportunity to sit here and wax poetical over one of the greatest subjects ever created.
Star
So,
Wars.
yep,
Because it's all subjects rolled into one.
bingo.
So
It's
that's the
everything.
takeaway. Don't make a Star Wars story in Star Wars. Just make stories in Star Wars.
Bingo.
And
Exactly.
you got money.
Hmm. Rolling
Tons
in.
of cash. But
Tons
more
of
than
it.
that. But yeah, other than that, we'll have an episode next week. Don't know what the topic is. We'll discombobulated right now. We got a lot moving parts in the world of Showboys. But Mike is working with Play Along Podcast. They have a Pokemon series out. They're doing a play along on one of the Pokemon games that's
Hmm.
currently releasing on our YouTube. But they have more plans on doing more of that in the future. So definitely be on the lookout for that. So that's rolling out. Um, I wish we would fire up a companion series here soon. This was our mini companion series because this would have been the one to do it on, but we were just not organized enough or have the time enough to do it for Ahsoka.
Hey,
But
life, man, life.
we squeezed out 3 episodes though around Ahsoka, and I'm fine with that.
2/3.
Two
Well, no,
thirds.
1/3. 1/3. 1/3's not bad. It's kind of like what Meatloaf said, but different.
Yeah, close. Um, other than that, everyone have a fantastic evening. Appreciate you stopping in. Again, Casey, always happy to talk Star Wars with you. Um, 'Cause I have to talk
Pleasure's all
about
mine,
Star
my
Wars
good
every
sir.
once in a while. Um,
You got to
it's
refill
more
that
than once in
meter.
a while.
You got to
Yeah,
bring it back up. Yeah,
will it
exactly.
refill? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now you're ready to go.
Yep, ready to roll. Ready to go live my life now that I've exhausted some of this out of there.
Exactly. Now you can live your truth. Now that we've managed to get rid of this part.
You know, and I'm okay maybe with those 2 years. I'm gonna have to wait now for more Thrawn. Really,
Yeah, that's the main takeaway here is more Thrawn. But in the meantime, you've got some awesome things in Star Wars Visions. If you haven't seen season 2,
I need to
brilliant,
watch that.
brilliant.
Yeah, Thrawn's kind of like the Imperial Mon Mothma. Like, just give me more scenes of them talking.
Yeah. Oh my God. If you had just a series of just those two arguing over who thought their position was better than the other, I'm in. That would finally be, if Filoni did it, Filoni would finally have an episode where I'm like, okay, I'm good with nothing but talking. Let's go.
It would be like WandaVision. They're married.
It's even better. It's a sitcom reality after whatever happens that drags them into the world between worlds, and that's where they're stuck. They're part
Yep.
of the sitcom. Oh,
Yep.
man.
That's
Come on.
it. That's it. And with that, we're out of here. We're done with this.
Night, y'all.